I have one dream that occurs every night, and that dream was a very terrible nightmare. In the dream, countless zombies were seen roaming around this city. Their crazy, diseased eyes terrify me. I can even smell their disgusting smell from a distance. This scene, like a painting of hell, is called the zombie apocalypse. Seen in the dream, the cities were destroyed and filled with zombies. A nightmare where the whole world is living in hell. And I, who was in this nightmare, was standing on top of this city building. In front of me was a mission window that said that I had to kill all the zombies on this earth with a reward if I would return to my original state. My name is Shinjae Rim. I am a hunter who lives to destroy all zombies. Now shall we begin? I talked to myself to prepare myself to start fighting. I then pressed a button on the remote. Soon dozens of bombs that I prepared throughout the city exploded in various places in this city. There was even an explosion that caused a large building to fall and hit thousands of zombies. Jumping from my building with my chain weapon attacked the zombies in front of me. The zombies began to notice my presence, and all the zombies ran to surround me. The roars of the zombies were heard very loudly. I took a deep breath to prepare myself for the zombies' attack. With a swing of my iron chain, I chopped off the legs of the charging zombies and kicked the zombies that managed to escape my iron chains. I kept swinging my iron chain and smashed the heads of the attacking zombies. Then a zombie roars from behind trying to attack me. I kept swinging my iron chain again and again and again to destroy these zombies until finally there were no zombies approaching. I finally stopped swinging my iron chain, which was soaked in zombie blood. I finally let out a sigh of relief and cursed at the zombies. Suddenly, the entire city was shaken. I don't understand what happened. I thought that this was just an earthquake. But my estimate was wrong. On the asphalt not far from where I was out, came a giant worm zombie that had a mouth with lots of teeth. Very quickly, the worm attacked me with its mouth and crushed me. Not long after, the mission window appeared and said that my quest had failed and I was dead. I woke up from my dream and screamed that this dream was so unfair. In the afternoon after I woke up from the dream, I went to report my dream to a psychiatrist named Choi Naya. I wrote down the nightmare I had last night and gave it to Professor Choi Naya. She said that the 99th round was very sad. She said that it feels like just yesterday that I was sobbing. She compliments me when I've grown. Hearing Professor Choi Naya's words, I could only stare down. 2 years ago, a bad dream appeared unexpectedly, constantly repeating the death of helpless people. In the first dream, I was bitten by zombies and woke me up from my sleep. The dream felt so real it made me vomit. This dream completely destroyed my life. I am dying both physically and mentally. That's why I underwent psychological counseling. That's when I first met her, Professor Choi Naya. She asked me if I wanted counseling because of my nightmares. I nodded to answer Professor Choi Naya's question. She asked what the nightmare was like. Sweat began to flow, remembering my nightmare. I replied that the nightmare was a dream about zombies. That's when my treatment began. Counseling, hypnosis, I even took medication. But the nightmare still doesn't go away. Day by day, I'm getting thinner and crazier. At the next counseling session, Professor Choi Naya asked if my nightmares were always the same. She then handed over a blank notebook. I asked what this notebook was for. Professor Choi Naya explained that she wanted me to write down everything clearly about what I experienced in my dream, and she would focus on my dream. I don't understand what Professor Choi Naya means by focusing on my nightmares. Professor Choi Naya also explained. First, we will determine where I can go or not in my dreams, and then remember as much as possible and write it down. Professor Choi Naya also gave me a pen. I also had nightmares again. I was sitting on the ground watching someone being bitten by a zombie. I remembered Professor Choi Naya's advice to go to the storage room since there should be a lot of useful weapons there. I convinced myself and pressed on to do as she said. I then ran towards the storage room. Inside, I found an iron pipe lying on the ground. I thought that I could use it as a weapon. I came back and ran screaming. Then I destroyed the zombie's head using the iron pipe that I found. The zombie died lying on the ground. I finally made it. That's when my nightmares started to change. Professor Choi Naya crossed her arms and said that she had reached her limit. She also asked me if I would move on my own during the 100th episode. I answered, sometimes humans can be more hated than zombies. Professor Choi Naya is sure that there must be some good people too. but I'm more certain that good people would no longer want to get involved. Even though it was just a dream, I only saw 1 or 2 people die trying to help me. I don't have the strength to protect others. People would really go crazy if they kept looking at it. Hearing my story, Professor Choi Naye thought that my dream must have felt so real. That's why the shock of losing comrades must have been huge as well. Professor Choi Naye then put down the book she received from me and invited me to have some soup since it was time for lunch. Ai then winked and said that she would save me. We arrived at the front of the restaurant. Professor Choi Naye also invited me to enter. While eating, Professor Choi Naye slurps the soup. She looked very pleased by praising that the soup tasted really good. She also asked my opinion if I agreed with her or not. I replied that I agreed with her. Not far from the table where I was eating, I heard the voice of an angry man speaking harshly at the cashier. The man asked why the cashier didn't let the man pay for his food. The man was angry because he had to go now, but the cashier didn't respond at all. Something crossed my mind. No way, I thought. Professor Choi Naye also asked if something had happened to me, and I replied that there was no problem at all. In the midst of this incident, blood suddenly flowed from the cashier's eyes, and saliva also flowed from his mouth. The cashier smiled. The angry man was surprised to see it. He also asked why the cashier smiled to himself in harsh language. The cashier lunged at the angry man and bit the man's neck. Impossible. I don't think it's impossible that it will actually happen. Dreams are dreams and reality is reality, but now that dream has become a reality. And the dream was not an ordinary dream. The man who was being bitten by the cashier was struggling for help. This is a very bad dream. The man was finally killed by the zombie cashier. Professor Choi Naye, who saw the incident, also looked scared and worried. Not long after, from outside, the screams of people who were attacked by zombies could be heard. Some screamed for help, some screamed in pain. Even a small child screamed for his mother. Seeing this, my hands trembled and grabbed my pants. The zombie cashier who had finished biting the man earlier lunged at me. I took this rather large bowl and slammed it on the zombie's head. However, it's clear that the bowl isn't enough to kill the zombie. I ran to take the broom that was visible in the corner of my eye. I then took the broom and broke the head of the broom to make a weapon. The zombie is now lunging at me. The zombie almost reached me, but I dodged to the left. The zombie fell because it failed to hit me. Taking that opportunity, I stabbed the zombie in the neck using a broom with the sharp part I broke earlier. The zombie then stopped moving. It looked like I had killed it. I also thought maybe I often see nightmares. So when I accept this bitter reality, I can think clearly. Professor Choi Naye called me with a trembling voice. I also asked if she was okay. Professor Choi Naye said to put that aside and fear that I just killed the cashier. Seeing Professor Choi Naye's face that was very worried, I asked Professor Choi Naye if she still didn't understand the current situation. I explained to her that the people who are attacking other people right now are walking corpses, in other words, zombies. Professor Choi Naye looked in disbelief. I also explained again that what I had written in the notebook had become a reality. Professor Choi Naye also looked at the notebook I brought earlier. Shortly thereafter, there was an explosion from a distance. From the timing of this explosion, if this is the same as my dream, then the explosion occurred at a gas station. Professor Choi Naye was very surprised to hear the explosion that occurred. I'm sure now. There's no mistake. Now my dream and reality have become the same. In that case, I'm sure this artisan village will soon be overrun with zombies. I'm starting to feel uneasy, and the problem is not only this village. 7th round. Seoul, Korea, 23rd round, China, Forbidden City, 48th round, America, New York, and 99th round. The nightmare ends with the extinction of humans. The zombies are continuously getting stronger, and human civilization is losing. From the start, this battle was one-sided, and there is only one future for me. When I see my birthplace burning, I can survive. Suddenly, a notification sound was heard like we usually hear from cell phones or games. When I saw it, I was surprised because in front of me appeared the mission window that I often see in my nightmares. I don't understand what is actually happening. I'm confused why something that is in my dream can appear here. In the mission window, it was written that I had to accompany and protect Professor Choi Naye to my house. What's more, the mission window says that I have a time limit of 3 hours to complete it. But what caught my attention was that if I completed this mission, I would be rewarded with the transmission skill. I have to calm myself down. At least I can find out how all the 99 nightmares came to be. So asking why won't help me at all. The mission window asked if I wanted to accept this challenge or not, a mission I never completed. I have an uneasy feeling. But maybe this choice will change my future, which is full of despair. Professor Choi Nea asked me if I was okay. I replied that I was fine. I remembered that this mission window could only be seen by me alone. Professor Choi Nae, who heard my answer, felt grateful. I also remember the figure of Professor Choi Nae, who has turned into a zombie. And it is Professor Choi Nae who has turned into a zombie. The front wall of this restaurant suddenly collapsed. The zombies outside started trying to get into this restaurant. I also told Professor Choi Nae to run. Outside, the streets are filled with zombies. However, fortunately not as fast as us. We ran into the storage room where I got the iron pipe in my first nightmare. The two of us managed to get into the storage room and locked the iron door of the room, hoping the zombies couldn't enter it. We were both out of breath from running from the zombies. I then approached a cupboard and tried to open it. Professor Choi Naya, who saw me, didn't understand and called my name. She was surprised to see me rolling the iron chain around my arm for me to use as a weapon. I also told Professor Choi Naya to get ready, because we will immediately fight them until we arrive at my house. Professor Choi Naya, who heard what I said, could only be confused. I also prepared myself to start fighting. I then unlocked this metal door and opened it. The screams of zombies could be heard everywhere. The sound of the metal door opening attracted the attention of the zombies. They now started running towards me. I now began to twist the iron chain in my hand. Then I swung my chain and smashed the head of a zombie. Using the iron chain's swinging momentum, I swung the iron chain towards the next zombie and smashed its head. I then ran to approach the zombies and I screamed. Seeing what happened while holding my notebook, Professor Choi Nae also looked very impressed. Amidst the crowd of zombies, I, who was swinging my chain, thought maybe because I've done this in my dream, I feel that swinging this chain is very familiar to me. I also continued to destroy the zombies using my iron chain swing. Professor Choi Nae, who was being impressed by what was happening at this time, remembered the past. In the past, Professor Choi Nae asked me why I used chains as a weapon. I also answered, the first is because I could find it easily when I first started my dream. And the second is because the attack range and resistance are much better than knives and heights. Seeing what was happening before her eyes, Professor Choi Nae now understood why I chose chains as a weapon. When I was fighting the zombies, one of the zombies that managed to get close tried to bite me. I blocked his bite with my chain. The zombies' bites were strong, but their bites weren't strong enough to break these iron chains. I swung my iron chain and did a series of attacks. Another zombie is now attacking me again from behind. I also kicked my metal chain that was swinging to change the direction of swinging toward the zombie that attacked me and crushed its head. Professor Choi Nae, who saw it, was very surprised. She did not expect that someone could use chains as a weapon like that. After taking care of that one zombie, I readied my iron chain again and ran back into the crowd of zombies to face them screaming. Even though I've defeated quite a few zombies, new zombies keep popping up. I also told Professor Choi Nae to run immediately now. We ran towards my house, leaving the zombies who had taken control of this village. Professor Choi Nae and I finally arrived in my yard. The current condition of my house is quite safe, because my house is quite far from the village and remote. I also invited Professor Choi Nae to come into my house. Professor Choi Nae was sitting on the floor. Worried, I asked her if he was okay. She replied that she was fine. She just felt relieved because she had survived the incident that happened earlier. I then helped Professor Choi Nae to stand up and offered her to sit on the sofa. After sitting on the sofa, Professor Choi Nae also thanked me. After the professor sat down, suddenly a mission window appeared in front of me, saying that my mission had been successful. I finally got the skill, Transmission. I then tried to read the skill I just got. The skill Transmission was an F-rank skill. With this skill, I could acquire the skills of an expert. Reading this skill just made me confused. After all, what was the meaning of expert? There should be a limit to make people not understand this. The mission window pointed at Professor Choi Nae and explained that I was close enough to Professor Choi Nae and I could use the transmission skill on her. Although a bit hesitant, I'll give it a try. I also whispered to activate the skill, transmission. Suddenly a circle that looked like a magic circle appeared above and below the both of us. I was also very surprised, but looking at Professor Choi Nae, who didn't react, it seemed that she couldn't see what I was looking at. Then a message window popped up, congratulating me on getting a skill. I also checked the skill I just got. The skill I obtained was called Mental Care, which was rated F. This skill explained that I could restore someone's mental state using this skill. I feel happy too I finally got the skill. Moreover, the skills I got were really useful skills. Professor Choi Nae is now lighting a cigarette with her lighter and sucking on it. She then called me and asked if the monsters earlier were zombies because in my notebook it was written about these zombies. Professor Choi Nae was very confused at this time and didn't understand what was going on at the moment. She even thought that she might just be having a bad dream. Professor Choi Nae was panic. Even her voice sounded quite chaotic. She was already relieved to have survived, but she was currently having a mental breakdown. Since this was a scene that I frequently encountered in my dreams, I thought that this was the right time to use the skill. I also said the skill Mental Care in my heart to activate my skill. A message window appeared. The message window said that my skill had successfully activated and said that one's mentality had been strengthened. Professor Choi Nae also put out her cigarette butt. She now looks much better now. She also said that it is a good thing that we are still alive, and asked me if I thought the same. She believed that the world would get better, so they should cheer themselves up. The skill Mental Care seems to have worked well. I also think that the transmission skill is really good, because I can get other people's skills. I later realized that the artisans living in this village have all kinds of crafts and intangible cultural heritage, and many talented professionals with long life experiences live as villagers. I was very excited and started to smile because an idea came into my head. I will learn skills from those professionals next. In the afternoon at a gas station, you can see a bald old man who has muscles and a mustache that can be extraordinary shirtless, crossing his arms. His eyes shone and he smiled. He's a 73-year-old martial arts master named Park Dalbong. A few months ago, I had 10 nightmares in a row. I, who was walking outside, had an unkind expression. As I was walking, an old man's voice could be heard calling me. The people who called me were 2 old men named Yong Young Chun and Park Dalbong. Yong Young Chun is a 78-year-old man who works as a wood craftsman, and the other parent is Park Dalbong, a martial artist from the Joseon Heavenly Demon Martial Arts School. The Joseon Heavenly Demon martial art is a tradition that has been passed down for 23 generations. Grandfather Yong Young Chun said that my face looks bad. He also asked if I had another dream about zombies. Then Grandpa Park Dalbong said that all of that happened because I didn't have enough stamina. He then grumbled about today's youth. Grandfather Park Dalbong then said to take it easy because he has red ginseng extract at home. He told me to eat it so that my body is full of energy. I tried to refuse because I felt bad, especially since recently the price of red ginseng was expensive. Park Dalbong's grandfather assured me that it was okay and advised me to exercise and take care of my health. In my current state, I can only thank the kindness of the 2 of them. In the afternoon, I was now getting ready and heating up the motorbike to go back to the village looking for Grandpa Yunchun and Grandpa Park Dalbong. Professor Choi Nae, who heard the sound of my motorbike, came out of the house and asked if I was crazy and wanted to become zombie food. I also tried to convince Professor Choi Nae and warned that some zombies would not be able to kill me. Due to the dizziness Professor Choi Nae was holding her head, she started to think that he wouldn't be able to stop me. She also now asked me to be careful, because if I was bitten by a zombie, she would lock the door. I tried to reassure her and asked if I had ever been bitten by a zombie. Hearing my question, Professor Choi Nae said that I should not speak carelessly like that. Even when I saw Professor Choi Nae, I laughed, when ready to go start leaving with my motorbike. Those 2 grandfathers, Yong Young Chun and Park Dalbong, I'm sure that the 2 of them must be together as usual. I promised that I would save them both. Seeing that I had left, Professor Choi Nae began to light her cigarette with a lighter. She took a deep drag on her cigarette and let out the smoke. Then she also said that he finally still failed to quit smoking this year too. In a room at a gas station, Young-Chun was seen hiding under a table, shaking in fear while clutching his head. One of the zombies who saw Young-Chun's bald head approached. The zombie also tried to attack Young-Chun. Young-Chun was even more scared and convinced that this was the end for him. But the zombie attack never came because Park Dalbong had smashed the head of the zombie who was trying to attack Young-Chun's grandfather with his fist. Park Dalbong also asked if Young-Chun was all right. Young-Chun also looked very happy because of Park Dalbong's arrival. Not long after, the zombies began to enter the room. Park Dalbong also asked Young-Chun to wait for him for a while, because he would take care of the zombies that came. Dozens of zombies ran towards Dalbong. Park Dalbong then smiled and took his martial arts stance and threw out his fists at the zombies. Right now I'm riding my motorbike to where Grandpa Young-Chun and Grandpa Park Dalbong are. Park Dalbong's grandfather was a martial artist. I'm pretty sure that he can beat normal zombies without any problem. However, in my dreams, those elders always die in my dreams. I'm going to go to the elder's place since there are 2 dangerous variables there. I also pulled the motorbike gas deeper so that I arrived faster. I hope I'm not too late. The zombies invaded Park Dalbong. However, with Park Dalbong's strength, it only took 1 punch to defeat a zombie. Even these ordinary zombies are rendered helpless in front of Park Dalbong. Young-Chun, who witnessed the incident, praised Park Dalbong that he was very strong. He then said maybe he should join Park Dalbong and learn from the Joseon dynasty too. Park Dalbong, who was standing in the middle of the pile of corpses, laughed. He said that it was a shame because ordinary people would not be able to learn the Joseon heavenly demon martial art, because only a strong person like him could learn this martial technique. Young-Chun also said that it was very unfortunate and wished he was born with a body as strong as Dalbong. They both suddenly heard a loud noise outside. It wasn't long before the zombies came back into the room. Not only that, even one of those zombies in human form was huge. It was so big that the zombie even left cracks in the ground that the zombie stepped on, and strangely the zombie's forehead has a gemstone. Young-Chun, who saw the zombie, screamed in fear. Park Dalbong, who saw the zombie, thought that the zombie was 2m 50 centimeters tall, or maybe even 3m. The big zombie picked up the normal zombie beside him and ate the zombie's head. Park Dalbong and Young-Chun, who witnessed the incident, did not understand what was happening. The zombie that was being eaten started to stop moving and was thrown by a large zombie that ate it. The huge zombie then roared for a very long time. Looking at the enemy in front of him, Park Dalbong said that an interesting enemy had arrived. Park Dalbong ran and jumped towards the big zombie. He then prepared his fist in the air. He also unleashed the attack Double-Fisted Tiger's Energy, the second technique of the Joseon Heavenly Demon martial art, Tiger's Chaos Dance. Park Dalbong issued a barrage of fist attacks at the large zombie's head. The huge zombie could only roar in pain in the face of Dalbong's repeated attacks. Having had enough of Park Dalbong's attack, the huge zombie roared with rage. Park Dalbong was very surprised because the big zombie was still able to fight back even though it was being beaten. The zombie grabbed Dalbong's hands and tried to clash with him. The huge zombie kept roaring. Park Dalbong, who is able to match the strength of this large zombie, is also very impressive because he can fight enemies whose size is even much bigger than him. Park Dalbong, who was competing with the zombies, began to think that this opponent was not an ordinary opponent. However, in the middle of a power struggle, Park Dalbong fell because of his sore waist. Even very strong people are nothing in front of age. Young-Chun, who witnessed what happened, was worried about Park Dalbong. He just remembered because Dalbong's waist often shifted. Park Dalbong was currently caught off guard and in a very dangerous situation. Now the big zombie is trying to kill Dalbong. The zombie swung its big arm towards Park Dalbong, but suddenly the huge zombie head was attacked by a chain that appeared out of nowhere. The big zombie roared in pain again. From the direction the chain attack came from, there was Shin Jae-rim, who had come to save Park Dalbong and Young-Chun. After my attack landed on the large zombie's head, I declared my intentions of coming to save the two of them to them. Young-Chun's grandfather and Park Dalbong's grandfather were surprised to see my arrival. Grandfather Park Dalbong was surprised why I was here. I had expected that there were two variables here. The first is Grandfather Park Dalbong's waste problem. I shouted at them to run before it was too late. Then the second variable is the emergence of a large zombie mutant. Youngjung Youngchun's grandfather ran to Park Dalbong's grandfather and helped him to stand up. Park Dalbong's grandfather also apologized to Young Youngchun's grandfather for bothering him. They both walked towards the motorbike that was under me. Seeing the two of them trying to run away, the mutant zombie roared loudly and attacked me with its right hand. Seeing the incoming attack, I ducked down to avoid it. Seeing what happened, Grandpa Park Dalbong shouted, telling me to get out of here because this zombie is not an ordinary monster. I convinced Grandpa Park Dalbong not to worry because I would be fine, and asked them to go ahead because my motorbike was only big enough for 2 people. They also became very anxious, especially since the arrival of new zombies who hear the sound of the battle that is happening here makes their number more and more. Jung Youngchun's worried grandfather asked if there was another way. Park Dalbong's grandfather also apologized, because if only his waist didn't hurt then he could join in this fight. I, who was twirling my iron chain, began to think. There are more zombies than I thought. I wasn't even sure if I could beat these zombies. Amidst this predicament, a message window popped up saying that a master with abilities really likes me and I can learn skills from him. When I saw this message, I smiled. Then the zombies started coming to me and attacking me. The elders who saw my current state shouted my name out of anxiety. When the zombies almost touched me, I also activated my skill. I then jumped high and used one of the techniques of the Joseon Heavenly Demon martial art. Energy wrap from 8 Joseon Province on your feet. Joseon Rainer. I also attacked the mutant zombies with a very strong stampede that even destroyed the ground around me, and even the surrounding zombies were thrown due to the pressure of my stampede. The elders who saw what was happening were shocked to see him. I couldn't help but smile happily because of this message window that popped up in front of me. The message written in front of me said that I had learned the new skill, Joseon Heavenly Demon Martial Art, and also the message saying that I have opened the first door of the Joseon Heavenly Demon Martial Art. The greatest person in the martial arts world is the strongest master in history. Heavenly Demon has explored all the land in China, and until finally he arrived at his hometown, Joseon. The Heavenly Demon, who at that time had returned to his village, received energy from Joseon to develop his martial abilities, and until finally able to master the History Absolute skill. The name of the skill itself is Joseon Heavenly Demon Martial Art. Due to the attack from my new skill, the floor in this room was shattered, leaving a big crack on the ground. The 2 elders who saw this incident also opened their mouths in shock and were at a loss for words. Grandpa Dalbong doesn't understand how I can use the Joseon Heavenly Demon Martial Art. Not long after, a message window popped up in front of me that I had acquired a new passive skill, Joseon Heavenly Heart Control. The message window then said that the passive effect of Joseon Heavenly Heart Control had integrated into my flesh and blood, and I was now able to sense mana now. I, who saw this message, was confused by entering the message. When I was confused, then a new status window appeared showing my name, HP, MP, and all the skills I had. Seeing this new status window, I was even more confused. Is this a game or what? I thought. Then I realized something. I noticed that my hand was slightly glowing. I also thought that this might be where the message window was referring to. My body now feels much lighter. So is this what they mean by merging with flesh and blood? As expected, even though it was very dangerous, saving Grandpa Park Dalbong was the right choice. Joseon Heavenly Demon Heart Control is really a skill I really need. I'm now out of the room to go from this place to see the 2 elders who are waiting on the motorbike. I thought that the 2 of them had left. Because I'm done here, I also invite to come back together. As I was about to leave, the mutant zombie from earlier woke up again with its badly damaged body and growled at me. The mutant zombie is still alive. It seems that his strength in dreams and reality is still the same. In that case, I also prepared my iron chain weapon again. I also said to the mutant zombie, should we just finish our fight here? I twirled my chain around getting ready to fight. The zombie mutant threw a punch at me. I jumped to avoid it. The 2 elders who saw it shouted my name out of anxiety. I said that I was fine and asked them to go ahead. I continued saying that I would catch up with them. They were very hesitant to leave me. I also asked them if they knew where my house was, because if they went there, they would meet Professor Choi Nae. Grandpa Young Chun didn't know what else to say. He also cursed in his heart. He also realized that his old body would only hold me back from fighting. Young Chun's grandfather is now pulling the motorbike's gas and starting to leave here. He also shouted that I had to come back alive. Seeing those who had left, I twisted my iron chain and ran to approach the mutant zombie I was facing. The mutant zombie roared. I then swung my iron chain and attacked the mutant zombie's head. The mutant zombie that received my attack roared angrily. The mutant zombie then caught my chain and broke my iron chain. I, who saw him break my iron chain, also cursed him. How dare he break my iron chain? I then jumped and gave a knee strike to the mutant zombie's face. The mutant zombie groaned in pain while holding his face. I then took my iron chain, which had been cut in half, and rolled the iron chains into my hands. I also asked the mutant zombie if the mutant zombie knows or not the punishment for people who damage other people's things. With my annoyed smile, I called the mutant zombie jerk and told the mutant zombie to get ready because I was going to beat him up. Mutant zombies who heard my threat also looked scared. In the evening at Shin Jarim's house, Professor Choi Nae was currently smoking in the living room. She also took out cigarette smoke from her mouth and said Jarim's name in her heart because she was nervous. Moments later, the sound of a motorbike approaching the house was heard. Professor Choi Nae, who heard the sound of the motorbike, stood up from the sofa and ran to greet Jarim. She opened the door of the house, and with a face that looked happy, thinking that Jarim had returned safely, she called out Jarim's name. However, it was not Jarim who rode the motorbike. Professor Choi Nae was also surprised to see Young Chun and Park Dalbong. Young Chun then said that from Jarim, if they went to Jarim's house, they would meet Professor Choi. Professor Choi Nae was also happy to hear that they had met Jarim. Professor Choi Nae heard Jarim said that he wanted to save them both and immediately ran away. Professor Choi Nae then asked Young Chun and Park Dalbong where Jarim was. Professor Choi Nae grumbled that she would scold Jarim so he would give up. Young Chun, who opened his mouth to answer Professor Choi Nae's question, closed his mouth as he hesitated to answer it. After preparing himself, he replied that Jarim was still in the village. Professor Choi Nae, who heard it, looked confused and didn't understand what Young Chun was saying. Young Chun continued that Jarim insisted on saving them, including parents like him, and stayed there to fight zombies alone. Hearing Young Hun's story, Professor Choi Nae looked very worried. Using my metal chain rolled up in my hand, I used my metal chain like a boxing glove and punched the mutant zombie I was facing on its left cheek. The mutant zombie was pushed backwards. Taking advantage of the current momentum, I made repeated punches to the mutant zombie's abdomen and chest. Still taking advantage of the momentum, I jumped and did a roundhouse kick to the mutant zombie's chin. The mutant zombie is now finally lying on the ground. I also told the mutant zombie that the mutant zombie was a good punching bag. I'm still pissed that he broke my iron chain, but after all, thanks to the mutant zombie I got used to using mana. The mutant zombie sat down groaning in pain. I then said, as thanks I will let him go without beating him black and blue. But the mutant zombie instead roared and lunged at me. I gather all my mana and expel it all at once using my fist. Even with my strong fist attack, the entire midsection of the mutant zombie was destroyed, leaving nothing left. The mutant zombie that was split open because it lost its middle body is now dead. I finally let out a sigh of relief. I then saw the magic stone that was on the mutant zombie's forehead released and fell to the ground. I took the magic stone and was confused because I didn't know what magic stone it was. Not long after, a message window suddenly appears saying that this magic stone is a red magic stone. The message window explained that the magic stone was used to speed up the level up, and when used, the user's level would increase. I, who read this message window, can only be confused. In my house, the sound of the TV. The TV was presenting the news that the Ministry of National Defense had declared a national disaster. Currently, this large-scale disaster of unknown cause is spreading across the country and imploring everyone to stay at home safely. Professor Choi Nae, Grandpa Young Chun, and Grandpa Park Dalbong, who were watching TV, now felt uneasy. Grandfather Park Dalbong suddenly felt someone's presence from outside. From the front door of the house, I asked if there was anyone in the house and stated that I was home. Seeing them all here look safe, I was grateful. But Professor Choi Nea scolded me and asked what I was worried about and whether I was bitten by a zombie or not. I also tried to calm down Professor Choi Nea and said of course I was fine. Grandfather Park Dalbong suddenly patted my back and said that he was proud of me because I came back safely. Young Chun's grandfather then complimented me that I was a good young man because I had tried to save these two people. He said I worked hard and thanked me. I was embarrassed and said that it was nothing. Then a message window popped up saying that an expert liked me and I was allowed to pass on his skills. The message window then said that I could pass the skill Wooden Architecture, F. When I saw the message, I felt happy. I then activated the skill Transmission. As usual, a circle that looks like a magic circle that only I can see appears. And then a message window appears saying that I have successfully passed the skill Wooden Architecture, F. The message window also explains that with this skill I can use mana to build structures or buildings out of wood. Grandfather Park Dalbong now said that he wanted to ask me something. He asked how I could learn the Heavenly Demon martial arts since he had never taught it to me before. I also answered and said that it was a skill from me. I now said that I would show them those skills here. Grandfather Park Dalbong, who was listening to me, asked Grandfather Jung Chun what I wanted to show them, and did I just say ski? Grandfather Jung Chun said that I just said Suki and asked if Grandfather Park Dalbong was deaf. Skill, huh? Surely he doesn't mean skill from the game, right? Think Professor Choi Nea. I then activated the skill Wooden Architecture. Soon the ground shook and made them panic. Grandpa Park Dalbong also asked if there was an earthquake right now. A moment later, a large wooden stake appeared from the ground at the feet of Grandfather Park Dalbong. After that, more wooden stakes emerged from the ground. The wooden benchmarks then formed into a fence that surrounded my house, and a large wooden gate was built between the fences. Those who saw the incident could only be shocked and lost for words. Young Chun's grandfather approached the wooden gate and touched it. He was again surprised by the wood, because even though he was an arborist, he had never seen that wood before. He even noticed that wood was very strong, even as strong as metal. I'm also now explaining that this wooden architecture skill is a skill I received from Young Chun's grandfather. Young Chun's grandfather, who heard it, could only be confused because he never taught or explained anything to me. I also explained to him that that was my transmission skill, a skill to pass on other people's abilities. Young Chun's grandfather was still confused about what I meant. Hearing that, Park Dalbong's grandfather finally realized, where did I get the Heavenly Demon martial art from? He then remembers his past. In the past, Grandfather Park Dalbong had many disciples to pass on the Heavenly Demon martial arts, but none of them passed the introductory stage, because the Heavenly Demon martial art can only be learned by geniuses. Gradually, Park Dalbong's grandfather began to despair. But then a little girl appeared in front of him and called him grandfather. The 5-year-old girl named Park Iseo is the granddaughter of Park Dalbong. Park Iseo has a natural talent for martial arts, and 18 years have passed. With natural talent and hard training, Park Iseo became the next successor. However, the enormous destructive power that I displayed before, not only Park Iseo, but even Park Dalbong's grandfather, who was a successor of the current generation, couldn't even wield that power. Grandfather Park Dalbong also looked at me with a serious face and thought that I am a genius. Amazing genius, who will save the world. A few moments later, a message window suddenly appeared. The message window said that my mana was depleted due to overuse. I suddenly felt very tired. My vision started to blur and I started to lose my balance when I stood up. Unable to withstand this feeling of fatigue, I began to lose consciousness and fell. Just as my consciousness was about to disappear, a message window popped up saying to forcefully initiate rest mode to restore my mana. Professor Choi Nea, Grandpa Park Dalbong, and Grandpa Young Chun all ran towards me out of concern. After what happened, I finally woke up from my sleep. I looked around and realized that I was currently in my room. While I was sitting on my bed, a message window popped up in front of me saying that my mana had recovered. The message window then explains that by sleeping, a lot of mana can be recovered. I also started to think that skills are not always helpful and comfortable to use. If my mana runs out when fighting zombies, I can be easy food for them. While I was thinking, Professor Choi Naye appeared to bring me a drink. Seeing that I was awake, she looked happy and said that she was very worried. I also apologized because I was so dizzy because I used too much of my skills. She also said that he knew because I had made a tree grow out of the ground like that. Professor Choi Naye also gave him a glass of drink that she had brought earlier. I also thank her. She then said that I was fine. I should go out with her, because the food should have started cooking. When I was out with Professor Choi Naye, I saw Grandfather Young Chun and Grandfather Park Dalbong sitting roasting meat in the yard. Outside the fence can also be heard groaning zombies trying to get in. I saw this situation lost for words and confused. Park Dalbong's grandfather, who saw me arrive, looked happy and said that tonight's main star had finally woken up. I could only answer with a dry laugh. I then asked what all this was for. Grandpa Park Dalbong laughed and replied that he brought some pork from the fridge just for me. I also asked if we will eat here because there are a lot of zombies outside, and Grandpa Park Dalbong answered because it is very beautiful outside. Young Chun's grandfather convinced me to relax and sit with them because the wooden fence surrounding this house is stronger than iron. He then continued to explain that, let alone zombies, even getting hit by a car wouldn't be a problem. Grandpa Young Chun said in his whole life in real estate, he had never seen barricades as perfect as this. He was sure that this fence was very strong. Hearing Young Chun's grandfather's explanation, I felt relieved and began to sit with them. But still, having a barbecue party in a situation like this is a bit excessive, I'd say. Before I could finish my sentence, I heard the sound of a can being opened beside me. Professor Choi Naye was seen opening a can of beer beside me. He also said precisely because we are in a situation like this, so we have to relax a little. He also offered me a can of beer. I also received the can of beer. Professor Choi Naye did not expect that even though there was a national disaster, they could still roast and eat meat. Park Dalbong's grandfather agreed with her, and said that this thing called ski was really great. Young Chun's grandfather, who heard Park Dalbong's grandfather, also tried to justify him, and said that it was not ski, but suki. He then protested to Park Dalbong's grandfather because he was the only one who drank cola. Seeing this lively atmosphere, I began to think. The current situation is different, very different from my 99 nightmares. In my nightmare, zombies filled the whole world. Every day felt like hell. Seeing them who were chatting happily, I smiled. I feel right now like I'm in a healing camp. Somewhere, right now, there was a line of soldiers raining down on the swarms of zombies that were attacking them. A soldier who seemed to be the leader of this troop squad was currently talking into the radio he was holding. He identified themselves as the Red Squirrels and asked the word team to return his calls. He then reported that the first line of defense was almost broken and requested to quickly send in reinforcements as zombies on a large scale were arriving quickly. He then reported that the number of zombies was likely over 1,000 and that the target of the zombies was the craftsman village. Among the crowd of thousands of zombies, there was a mutated monster that looked like a fusion of a wild beast with gigantic human body parts. The mutant monster has many legs and a large mouth with a large and very long tongue. And again, like the previous mutant zombie, on the monster's forehead there is a magic stone attached. If these zombies managed to get close to the craftsman village, there was no doubt that the village would be in dire straits. 7 a.m. On this sunny morning, I, who was fast asleep on the sofa in the main room, was awakened by the mission window that appeared in front of me. The mission window said that I had cleared the hidden mission to save the 3 professors on the first night of the incident, rewarding me with the skill Analysis F. I also read the description of the skill. This skill says that I can use mana to get information on a target. I was also surprised because I had a hidden mission, and more importantly, I got a new skill. Hearing a sound from outside, I went out and saw Grandfather Park Dalbong and Grandfather Young Chun, who were doing warm-up exercises, and Professor Choi Naye, who was sitting smoking. Since I just got a new skill, I thought about trying to use it. Their information appears. However, because the level of the skill Analysis was still insufficient, some information still did not appear. Among all the information, there is one that caught my attention, and that was the information that they were all unrated humans. I don't understand why humans have judgment. I'm sure this assessment is not the same as the assessment during the exam. If you compare the wooden architecture with the Yoseon heavenly demon martial art, it is somewhat disappointing. I looked inside the house, and then an analysis window popped up on the items I saw, like the TV and sofa. I was surprised because even items have ratings. I also took out the magic stone that I got from the previous mutant zombie. I also thought that maybe this magic stone could be used for items as well. Seeing me holding this magic stone, Professor Choi Naya asked me why I saw this magic stone like a very precious treasure. I also said that I got this magic stone from the city and thought that this magic stone was some kind of catalyst item. Professor Choi Naya, who heard my answer, asked if what I meant as a catalyst item was like a catalyst item from a game. I also replied that what she said was almost similar, but this magic stone is more similar to potion experience. I then explained that with this magic stone, we can strengthen things or people using this magic stone. Hearing my explanation, Professor Choi Naya also asked why I only saw this magic stone and didn't use it. I'm still thinking about what to use it for. After all, I still don't know what the benefits of raising the rating of a person or item are, so I have to find out. Because I wanted to try this magic stone, I said that I would go out for a while. Professor Choi Naya also scolded me because it hasn't been a day since I fainted, and now I have the courage to go for a walk. I said that there was something I had to confirm. I also took a helmet, put it on, and got on my motorbike, then went to the craftsman's village. The scene of the craftsman village right now was truly apocalyptic. Everyone in the village has turned into zombies, and they are all roaming the streets. Seeing me coming on a motorbike, they ran towards me to attack. While riding my motorbike, I attacked the approaching zombies using my iron chain. The crisis within this village is about to begin. I remember what happened in my dream. Thousands of zombies rule this village. And not only that, among the thousands of zombies there were even some gigantic mutant zombies. The mutant zombies I met earlier even looked like children to them. The me who was in my dream at that time could only tremble in fear. But this time was much different. I, who had arrived at my destination, took off my helmet and got off my motorbike. A moment later there was an explosion in the distance. Have they arrived here yet? I thought. I started rolling my metal chain into my hand and using it like a boxing glove. I have to get there first, even though all of this won't be easy. I started to go and attack the zombies that approached me with my fists. On a route used to reach the craftsman's village, one can see a group of soldiers blocking the road using a Tiger II tank and 4 military armored vehicles. A warrior who looked like the leader thought that a new entity had broken the first blockade. He then thought that if he could catch him alive, then he would be able to rise in rank. The leader of the soldiers ordered his subordinates to catch the black monster alive and asked if his subordinates understood. The underlings answered that they understood and started getting ready. A few moments later, the zombies began to appear. One of the underlings reported that zombies had appeared from all directions. The army leader ordered all his subordinates to attack the zombies with all their bullets. The leader said that he wanted them to show the zombies the burning sensation from their guns. The soldiers showered the zombies with bullets. In fact, some soldiers used mortars to blow up the zombies. The leader also laughed arrogantly at the sight of the zombies falling due to the hail of bullets fired by his subordinates. But just as he was about to give an order, the area where the leader was in was covered in shadows. Curious as to what was blocking the light, the leader looked up. He was surprised, because there was a mutant zombie whose size was even bigger than their armored vehicle was falling from the sky. The mutant zombie has 4 legs and a very large mouth. The mutant zombie landed on the armored vehicle driven by the leader of the soldiers and killed the army leader because he was standing on top of the vehicle. The soldiers who witnessed this angrily fired at the mutant zombies with their rifles. Seeing their rifle bullets not working against the mutant zombies, someone ordered the tank to aim at the mutant zombies. But very surprising, because the mutant zombies are very fast. The mutant zombies quickly pushed the armored vehicles and tanks like they were pushing toys. The soldiers of the army could not believe what they had witnessed. One of the army soldiers said that they must immediately protect the second blockade, and it was time to sacrifice their lives to protect the others. The soldier, however, was hit from behind by a mutant zombie that Jarim was like against. Not only that, there are many of them. On the other hand, there is another mutant zombie that looks like a lizard. They have very long tongues and use their tongues to attack and attract soldiers. Soldiers who were caught by their tongues groaned for help to save themselves. I, who was currently fighting against the zombies, now heard a scream. I went towards the scream. Seeing the soldiers who had been wiped out, I cursed in my heart. They had already attacked until the second blockade. They are very fast. I began to feel the difference between my nightmare experience and the real world. Even the number of variant zombies in my dream increased from 5 to 10. I also looked at the four-legged mutant monster and had a very large mouth as its body. It even got here. Seeing this, I started to worry. The mutant monster is now approaching the tank, which has been overturned by him pushing it and biting the tank like a cracker. The tank soon exploded in front of the mutant monster. But even that explosion didn't hurt the mutant beast in the least. The mutant monster started to roar. Seeing the jewel on his forehead, I activated the skill, Analysis. After seeing what was written, I thought that today's rest period is over. I'm currently riding my motorbike on a trip. The number of zombies is around 5,000 or more. Josian Reiner is strong, but uses too much mana. Because of that, I had no other choice but to use that. Every summer, the village of artisans holds a fireworks festival for tourists. The festival should be held tonight, so there must be some left. I arrived at the river, which is my goal. On the edge of this river there is a ship that is anchored. My current goal is the fireworks inside this ship. I got on the ship and started to go to where the fireworks were. I know where the fireworks are because I have used them many times in my dreams. I finally found the fireworks I was looking for. I knew the fireworks hadn't even scratched a bit. With a little improvement, I can use it soon. However, I don't know if I will use this now. I'm now back in the village. While observing the zombies, I took out a spray and started using it all over my body, after I was sure that this was enough to change my smell. After that, I took out my metal chain and magic stone and placed them on the floor. I also used the skill Analysis on my iron chain. An analysis window popped up, saying that this was an old metal chain that had no value. So that I can fight against the huge horde of zombies, I better strengthen my weapon. That was my plan, but I don't even know how to use this magic stone. With my confused face, I can only pay attention to this magic stone. I also thought, do I just need to put the magic stone? When I brought the magic stone closer to my iron chain, a message window popped up saying that this item could be strengthened and asking if I wanted to strengthen it or not. Without thinking twice, I chose yes. My iron chain also shines. Soon a message window popped up saying that the item enhancement had been successful and my iron chain changed form. The iron chain also looks like new and even reunites as before it was broken by the previous mutant zombie. This iron chain even has a different analysis result now. This iron chain is now named Intact Chain, which has a rating, F. Not only that, this intact chain even provides an additional 15% mana and has the special ability separation, F. I was impressed to see my new weapon. As I held onto my iron chain, I could even feel the mana getting into my weapon. I then tried the special ability Intact Chain Separation. My iron chains broke away and coiled themselves around my arms like I always did. I also think that this magic stone is really great. When I was feeling happy, suddenly the shock was felt. Finally, they came too. Collections of zombies and variant monsters began to appear in control of the village. It's time to put out the fireworks. I took out a remote control and pressed the remote control button. The fireworks that were on the ship began to shoot and explode in the sky. The zombie's attention was distracted by the fireworks. I then jumped on the variant zombie in human form and suffocated it using my iron chains. With my power, I beheaded that variant zombie with my chain. The head of the human variant zombie that I decapitated was thrown up. The two lizard variant zombies who noticed my presence also attacked by sticking out their tongues. I reacted by activating the wooden construction skill and blocking the tongue attack of the lizard variant zombie. I then swung my iron chain and crushed the heads of the two lizard variant zombies with my swing. On the ground, there are now 3 magic stones from the 3 variant zombies that I just defeated. I immediately used all of them to upgrade my iron chain weapon. Immediately a message window pops up saying the reinforcement was successful, and the intact chain has now become intact chain +3. With my weapon getting stronger, I ordered the zombies to all go forward because I was going to kill them all. The large spider variant zombie that has 4 legs and a mouth as a body finally arrived at the ship that had fired the fireworks earlier. The spider variant zombie also crashed into the ship and sank the ship easily. Suddenly, the variant zombie smelled something. The spider variant zombie also tracked the smell and jumped very high towards the smell. The spider variant zombie landed and found me who was killing the zombies. Finally, this monster came, really the right time. Hearing what I said, the spider variant zombie was now roaring. I now took out a magic stone and used it on my iron chain. The message window says that intact iron chain +5 has reached the strengthening limit and asks if I want to strengthen it. Without thinking, I said yes. A message window appears again saying that the reinforcement was successful and gains new special abilities, Chain of Flames, E, and Fireworks, E. With the iron chain burning with fire in my hand, I also told the spider variant zombie that the festival has just started. In a house that looks a bit luxurious, there is a professor who's sitting on the sofa in his room, reading a book about albinos. The professor's name is Sebastian Kim. He is a 65-year-old ethology professor. On his lap was an albino flying squirrel named Hanul. Shortly thereafter, a crow appeared which gave a message tied to its leg to Professor Sebastian Kim. Professor Sebastian Kim is also happy because one of his pets, Mong Mong, has returned. Professor Sebastian Kim also praised Mong Mong for doing his job well, and took the message tied to Mong Mong's leg. Professor Sebastian Kim opened the message and read it. Inside the message was written, "The village is being flooded by zombies right now, and they are also wreaking havoc there. You also have to be careful. Stay alive, and let's meet again. Thank you for contacting me." Professor Sebastian Kim, who read the message, felt relieved because the sender of the message was still alive. Professor Sebastian Kim then remembered the members of the endangered species conservation community. He wondered if they were safe from the zombies. Professor Sebastian Kim also hopes that they will be fine. Suddenly in the distance, there was an explosion of fireworks. Seeing the fireworks, Professor Sebastian Kim wondered if the zombies were playing with fireworks. Hanul is now crawling onto Professor Sebastian Kim's thigh to get his attention. Professor Sebastian Kim asked what happened, and Hanul pointed at the fireworks. Professor Sebastian Kim, with a face that didn't want to believe, asked if Hanul had just told him to go to that hell. Hearing Professor Sebastian Kim's question, Hanul nodded hard, repeatedly. While looking at the fireworks that were still exploding in the sky, Professor Sebastian Kim remembered that day. When Professor Sebastian Kim was in the forest, he saw Hanul up in a tree. Hanul then jumped and flew towards Professor Sebastian Kim and landed on his shoulder. Hanul then tried to remember something. When Professor Sebastian Kim went in the direction Hanul pointed, he saw that people were being attacked by zombies. Professor Sebastian Kim was shocked to see this incident happen. Professor Sebastian Kim thinks that if it wasn't for Hanul's warning, he might have died the first day this incident happened. Professor Sebastian Kim was sure that if it wasn't for Hanul, he wouldn't be here now. Professor Sebastian Kim decided to trust Hanul's instincts once again. I'm currently dealing with a 4-legged spider variant zombie. The monster stretched its neck and lunged at me. I dodged to the left and then launched a fist attack using my iron chain covered in flames. The neck of the spider variant zombie that took my hit now also has a big hole in its neck. But despite taking such an attack, the spider variant zombie didn't seem to take any damage. The spider variant zombie is now starting to take a deep breath. Seeing that pattern, I was sure that it was a poisonous spider web. From the mouth of the zombie variant of the spider webs spread out in all directions. I started to think, could it be because of the analysis skill? Because somehow I understand how to use the new weapon. I also now inject mana into the iron chain covered in fire that is rolled up in my hand. Then a message window appears saying that the mana injection has reached its limit. I finally activated the special ability Intact Iron Chain Fireworks Flame Fist. From my fist also issued a burst of fire like a flamethrower weapon. The bursts of fire also burnt the nets that the zombie variant of the spider spouted. Since ancient times, the all-burning power of fire has been the natural enemy of poison. The fires began to spread and began to devour the zombie variant of the spider. I also told the spider variant zombie that he didn't know who he was playing with. The spider variant zombie roared and groaned in pain. The spider variant zombie also threw its body to the ground to extinguish the fire that burned its body. After the flames were extinguished, the spider variant zombie seemed to want to run away. But before that, the variant zombie looked at me. This might just be my feeling, but I felt that the zombie just said that he would definitely kill me. The variant zombie roars and summons all the zombies around. I also said that it turns out that he still wants to fight, it turns out. I then fused my iron chain and spun it around. I then said that he can do whatever he likes because I will play with him. With my current strength, even a single swing of my iron chain can kill some normal zombies that attack me. The spider variant zombie jumped high and landed trying to step on me. However, I dodged it by jumping backwards and throwing my iron chain to bind the two legs of the spider variant zombie. I also pulled my iron chain and severed the two legs of the spider variant zombie. I also said that he was nothing to me while cursing him. The spider variant zombie finally roared in pain, and finally this spider variant zombie finally collapsed to the ground. Professor Sebastian Kim, who has now arrived at the village, is surprised because he hasn't seen any zombies, even though he has been in the village. A moment later, in the distance, there was a huge explosion. Professor Sebastian Kim was sure that something was going on there. Hanul, who heard Professor Sebastian Kim's words, nodded in agreement. Professor Sebastian Kim thought, no matter how you hear it, only an explosion would make such a sound. Professor Sebastian Kim started running toward the sound of the explosion. Professor Sebastian Kim also thought that the soldiers who caused the explosion could have been the soldiers. When Professor Sebastian Kim arrived, he saw me standing on the corpse of the spider variant zombie. He then asked me if I was a soldier. When I heard the voice, I recognized the voice, and called Professor Sebastian Kim's name. Professor Sebastian Kim, who saw me, was surprised and asked if I was the one who did all this. I also replied that it was true, and I was the one who had fought all the zombies here. I then asked Professor Sebastian Kim why he was here. Professor Sebastian Kim also said to wait a minute and asked if I had not only defeated the zombies here, but I had also defeated the big monsters over there. He really didn't believe me and asked how this could happen. Before I can answer, Hanul suddenly chirped and pointed towards something. Professor Sebastian Kim asked what was wrong and looked in the direction Hanul was pointing. Professor Sebastian Kim was shocked and shouted. Out of curiosity about what Professor Sebastian Kim saw, I looked at the direction Professor Sebastian Kim was looking at. In the sky, visible meteors that are falling from the sky. I was shocked and panicked too. I quickly headed to my motorcycle and told Professor Sebastian Kim to quickly get on board. Pulling the gas on my motorbike, we also tried to escape. I've never seen this happen before in a dream. The meteor soon fell somewhere. Just the impact of the meteor alone caused an enormous shaking to occur. As a result of the shaking, my motorbike lost its balance and made me hit a power pole and fall. Then the zombies that were affected by the meteor effects began to rise. The zombies were now starting to walk towards me. I also now prepare my iron chain to prepare to fight. Before the fight, I also used the skill Analysis, F, on the zombies. However, the results of the analysis only show damaged text. I've never seen a zombie like this in my dreams. I then tried one of the zombies with my flaming iron chain, but my physical attack doesn't work against that zombie. And even those zombies have some defense against fire. Then, one of the zombies came from behind me to attack. I also swung my iron chain to attack and split the zombie's right arm. In an instant, the hand that I had cut off from the zombie regenerated again. As I thought, if I attack them in this purple area, they will continue to regenerate. The zombies started coming towards us. I heard Hanul's chirping and Professor Sebastian Kim, who had just woken up after the previous accident. Professor Sebastian Kim, who was holding his head in pain, asked what was going on here. Since I have obtained all the magic stones, we should head back for now. I also tried to help Professor Sebastian Kim stand up and said that the current situation is quite serious, and we should go back to my house first. I also carried Professor Sebastian Kim to help him walk to my house. After walking quite a distance, we finally arrived at my house. Professor Sebastian Kim, who saw the barricades around my house, asked if I had made these barricades. I replied that it was true and asked if it was good. Professor Sebastian Kim gave me a thumbs up and said, "That was fantastic. I also saw the message window in front of this wooden gate. In the message window it says that this wooden construction has a durability of 9-10. Its durability has decreased. I wonder if it's all right. I tried knocking on one of the wooden stakes and felt sure that this barricade was still strong enough. Soon a voice came from inside asking if it was me who had arrived. I replied that I had come home. Jung Young-chun's grandfather, Park Dalbong's grandfather, and Professor Choi Na-ye came out to greet me. I asked them if they were still on guard, and Grandpa Jung Young-chun replied that ever since the fireworks went off and the strange green meteor appeared, they couldn't sleep. Before Grandfather Jung Young-chun finished his words, he saw the person who was with me. He also looked happy, and asked if it was really Su-chan. Grandpa Jung Young-chun answered, and asked Grandpa Jung Young-chun to call him Sebastian Kim. Jung Young-chun's grandfather laughed, and said that he was relieved that the bad boy was still alive. In the middle of the conversation, I asked them to save the celebration for later, because there was something I wanted to discuss about the green meteor earlier. We are all now sitting and gathered in the TV room. After listening to my explanation, Professor Choi Na-ye said that this place had turned into a terrible place. Jung Young-chun's grandfather was worried about the survivors, because he believed their supplies were running low. Professor Sebastian Kim, who heard Grandpa Jung Young-chun's worries, said that there was a solution for that. Park Dalbong's grandfather, who heard Professor Sebastian Kim, scolded him and told him to use Korean. Professor Sebastian Kim looked surprised to be scolded. He continued his conversation and asked if we remembered his crow. Grandfather Park Dalbong, who remembered the crow, said that we could hang food at his feet and deliver it, and that was enough for the survivors to survive. The problem is that the crow is still at Professor Sebastian Kim's house, and it's probably surrounded by zombies in that house by now. If we save the crow, it will reduce the time needed to rescue the village's craftsmen. Jung Young-chun's grandfather asked how we can save him since we can't fly to avoid the zombies. I also thought about trying to break through the zombies, but it would be lucky if I didn't die there. I need another way to break through. There were only 4 magic stones left after I used them to strengthen my weapon. I don't know how many magic stones are needed to awaken a special expert. This amount can cover at least 1 person and a maximum of 4 people. In front of those who are looking for a solution to this problem, I also said that I needed their help. They are all now paying attention to me. Currently, we are all gathered in the yard of the house. In front of them, all appeared a message window saying that they could awaken using a magic stone and asking if they wanted to awaken. Park Dalbong's grandfather looked surprised and asked if only he could see this writing. Professor Sebastian Kim, who also looked confused, answered that he couldn't believe it, and he could see it too. Others also replied that they could see the same writing. I then clapped my hands and explained that if they use the stone, they can awaken and get special abilities like me. If I can make them all grow stronger with this magic stone, I'm sure we can all overcome all the problems that will come later. Professor Sebastian Kim, who was examining the magic stone, said that this stone looked very valuable, and asked if it would be okay if he accepted this stone. I replied that it was fine and asked them to use it right away. The boulder they were currently holding began to emit light. In front of Park Dalbong's grandfather, a message window popped up saying that the innate skill Joseon Heavenly Demon Martial Art had been obtained. Grandpa Park Dalbong can feel something. He is sure that it is mana, like I said before. Park Dalbong's grandfather also exerted his strength throughout his body. The bandage that covered Park Dalbong's grandfather's stomach was released due to the pressure from Grandpa Park Dalbong's strength. He then hit the ground and left a crack in the ground, and also left his fist mark on the ground. He also shouted that he felt filled with energy. Park Dalbong's grandfather also flexed using his muscles. But in the midst of all that, Grandfather Park Dalbong's back suddenly hurt again. He bent his back and groaned in pain. I asked Grandpa Park Dalbong if he was okay. I then checked Grandpa Jung Young-chun's condition. Jung Young-chun's grandfather seemed to have gotten his innate skill, wooden construction. He is also currently controlling wood and making miniature luxury buildings, miniature historical buildings, miniature high-rise buildings, and even miniature wooden warriors. I who saw him were a bit surprised by what he could do with that skill. I then called Professor Choi Na-ye, but she didn't answer because she seemed busy with her thoughts. I called her again and finally came to my senses, and asked if I had just called her. Professor Choi Na-ye also said that this was very interesting because she could see everyone's emotions. In Professor Choi Na-ye's eyes, she could see a window on the emotional status of the person Professor Choi Na-ye saw. As she looked at Grandpa Park Dalbong, who was holding his back in pain, The professor saw the emotional state of Grandpa Park Dalbong, who was experiencing embarrassment, 0.4, and sadness, 0.7. Then she looked at me. With her skill, she saw that my emotions were experiencing happiness, 0.2, and embarrassment, 0.6. Professor Choi Nae said that I must be very surprised. She then touched my cheek with her hand and used her innate skill, mental care, on me. The emotional value of my happiness, which started from 0.2, increased to 0.7, and the value of shame decreased from 0.6 to 0.2. I also said that I feel better. Professor Choi Nae saw me looking excited and looking better, like she had high hopes for me, and she also looked pleased with her new skill and said that this innate skill was very interesting. The skills of the village craftsmen have no rank, but only innate skills, which I don't think their skills are too useful to bring to a real place like a battlefield. I also thought that it might be different. Professor Sebastian Kim suddenly shouted that he just had an idea. He also called me and said that he felt that he had found the answer. He then, with a confident face, pointed towards the sky. I saw him did not understand at all what he meant. Professor Sebastian Kim then explained that we couldn't go by land because there were a lot of monsters. Because in his opinion, trying to cross the land with the current situation was extremely dangerous and even seemed like suicide. With that abnormally large number of monsters, he also took a decision which had to be done as it should be, so we had better go by air. I, who was still confused, asked if he just said the sky. Set in a magnificent and formidable sect, there was a woman who seemed to be flying over the gate. That woman was the senior sister named Jia, who was currently directly telling the juniors that currently the reason they were standing in this place was to listen to the announcement about any outer disciple of the sect at the age of 19 who can't reach the 6th level of Qi practice. Those named later should be expelled from this division, and whoever is named later can immediately leave the sect. Xia then started mentioning the names of the outer disciple who had not passed, and in one of the names, unexpectedly, there was the name Gu Xiaoyang, who was the main character of this attribute extractor. Gu Xiaoyang was also very disappointed by this situation because he had practiced Qi for 6 years, but during that time he could only reach the 5th stage. Because of his disappointment, it is suspected that he became very shocked, weak, and eventually fainted. During his fainting spell, Gu Xiaoyang heard his name being called out, and when he woke up, he reflexively said that he still didn't want to leave the sect. But unfortunately, after all the decision has been made, and not long after that, Xia approached him to convey that at this time, Gu Xiaoyang must be expelled from the sect immediately. When in such a state unexpectedly, the first thing Gu Xiaoyang saw was something he had never noticed before, where he saw lots of balloons that were around Xia's body. This condition made Xia feel that the balloon Xiaoyang mentioned was his own. Xia immediately became annoyed with Xiaoyang, and she thought that at this time Gu Xiaoyang was hallucinating and being a perverted man. Xia then immediately asked why Gu Xiaoyang said such things, when at this time Gu Xiaoyang was about to leave the sect. And when the annoyed Xia was about to leave the place, again and again, Gu Xiaoyang prevented him. And this time Gu Xiaoyang immediately got closer to Xia, while saying that if there were a lot of balloons around Xia, this kind of condition made Xia feel even more if this Xiaoyang was not a good man. Xia was frightened by the behavior shown by Gu Xiaoyang, but here Gu Xiaoyang finally realized that the orbs could only be seen by himself. And at this time, Gu Xiaoyang immediately got closer to Xia, while saying that there were a lot of balloons around Xia. This condition made Xia feel even more that Xiaoyang was not a good man. Xia was frightened by the behavior shown by Gu Xiaoyang, but here Gu Xiaoyang finally realized that the orbs could only be seen by himself. And at this time, Gu Xiaoyang immediately got closer to Xia while saying that there were a lot of balloons around Xia. This condition made Xia feel even more that Xiaoyang was not a good man. Xia was frightened by the behavior shown by Gu Xiaoyang, but here Gu Xiaoyang finally realized that the orbs could only be seen by himself. Xiaoyang, who was curious about the balloons, immediately tried to touch them, and unexpectedly a lot of strength was immediately absorbed into his body. This improvement made his body quite powerful than before, but by now Xia was running out of patience, because he thought that Xiaoyang was a truly immoral person. That way, Xiaoyang got a slap from Xia, who then left. Under these conditions, It also turned out that there was another disciple who knew all of these things, and immediately Xia ordered him to take care of and expel Xiaoyang from the sect. The disciple is now approaching Xiaoyang, and the disciple is named Jiang. At this time, Jiang told Gu Xiaoyang that he had seen all of Gu Xiaoyang's previous actions, and Jiang also said that Gu Xiaoyang had enough courage to touch Xia, who was the prettiest sister in the sect. But under these circumstances, Xiaoyang again and again saw many balloons around Jiang's body. At first, Jiang thought this was normal considering that Xia was the first in physical skills. But when Gu Xiaoyang got closer, Jiang even thought that this Gu Xiaoyang would do indecent things to him, just like what Xiaoyang did to Xia. Jiang immediately walked away and asked for help from anyone who was there. Under these circumstances, even Gu Xiaoyang was in a state of great misunderstanding. Even so, he managed to obtain the various attributes that came from those balloons. But under these circumstances, Xiaoyang again and again saw many balloons around Jiang's body. At first, Jiang thought this was normal considering that Xia was the first in physical skills. But when Gu Xiaoyang got closer, Jiang even thought that this Gu Xiaoyang would do indecent things to him, just like what Xiaoyang did to Xia. Jiang immediately walked away and asked for help from anyone who was there. Under these circumstances, even Gu Xiaoyang was in a state of great misunderstanding. Even so, he managed to obtain the various attributes that came from those balloons. But under these circumstances, Xiaoyang again and again saw many balloons around Jiang's body. At first, Jiang thought this was normal, considering that Xia was the first in physical skills. But when Gu Xiaoyang got closer, Jiang even thought that this Gu Xiaoyang would do indecent things to him, just like what Xiaoyang did to Xia. Jiang immediately walked away and asked for help from anyone who was there. Under these circumstances, even Gu Xiaoyang was in a state of great misunderstanding. Even so, he managed to obtain the various attributes that came from those balloons. Jiang even thought that this Gu Xiaoyang would do lewd things to him, just like what Xiaoyang did to Xia. Jiang immediately walked away and asked for help from anyone who was there. Under these circumstances, even Gu Xiaoyang was in a state of great misunderstanding. Even so, he managed to obtain the various attributes that came from those balloons. Jiang even thought that this Gu Xiaoyang would do lewd things to him, just like what Xiaoyang did to Xia. Jiang immediately walked away and asked for help from anyone who was there. Under these circumstances, even Gu Xiaoyang was in a state of great misunderstanding. Even so, he managed to obtain the various attributes that came from those balloons. Gu Xiaoyang got a lot of vitality, wood attributes, and other kinds. This situation made Xiaoyang very happy. He didn't expect that just by pointing at the balloon, he managed to absorb all the statuses in the balloon. This condition made his cultivation increase greatly. He tried to collect various balloons in the surrounding environment to increase his abilities again. Knowing this also made Xiaoyang believe that it was things like this that made one stronger. He was also aware of the greatness of the vitality attribute, whereby it could increase his cultivation. Even the low-grade primordial stone in his hand only added 97 vitality to him. After successfully absorbing its properties, the original balloon will disappear and then turn into a countdown. The countdown indicated the time for the next recovery, and at this time Xiaoyang was sure that Xia managed to get a balloon with the bone attribute, and when absorbing it the feeling he got was very, very different from when he absorbed the vitality attribute. It was almost the same as absorbing the wood attribute, which he can improve his talent abilities. Under these conditions, Gu Xiaoyang was still confused, and didn't expect why he could have such greatness, and wondered why only he could see the balloons. He seemed to take this as a gift from the gods for giving him such a unique ability, and promised to make the most of this opportunity. The countdown indicated the time for the next recovery, and at this time Xiaoyang was sure that Xia managed to get a balloon with the bone attribute, and when absorbing it, the feeling he got was very, very different from when he absorbed the vitality attribute. It was almost the same as absorbing the wood attribute, which he can improve his talent abilities. Under these conditions, Gu Xiaoyang was still confused and didn't expect why he could have such greatness, and wondered why only he could see the balloons. He seemed to take this as a gift from the gods for giving him such a unique ability, and promised to make the most of this opportunity. The countdown indicated the time for the next recovery, and at this time, Xiaoyang was sure that Xia managed to get a balloon with the bone attribute, and when absorbing it, the feeling he got was very, very different from when he absorbed the vitality attribute. It was almost the same as absorbing the wood attribute, which he can improve his talent abilities. Under these conditions, Gu Xiaoyang was still confused and didn't expect why he could have such greatness, and wondered why only he could see the balloons. He seemed to take this as a gift from the gods for giving him such a unique ability, and promised to make the most of this opportunity. And when absorbing it, the feeling he gets is very, very different from when he absorbs the vitality attribute. It's almost the same as absorbing the attributes of wood, where he can increase his talents. Under these conditions, Gu Xiaoyang was still confused and didn't expect why he could have such greatness, and wondered why only he could see the balloons. He seemed to take this as a gift from the gods for giving him such a unique ability, and promised to make the most of this opportunity. And when absorbing it, the feeling he gets is very, very different from when he absorbs the vitality attribute. It's almost the same as absorbing the attributes of wood, where he can increase his talents. Under these conditions, Gu Xiaoyang was still confused and didn't expect why he could have such greatness, and wondered why only he could see the balloons. He seemed to take this as a gift from the gods for giving him such a unique ability, and promised to make the most of this opportunity. Under these conditions, Gu Xiaoyang was still confused and didn't expect why he could have such greatness, and wondered why only he could see the balloons. He seemed to take this as a gift from the gods for giving him such a unique ability, and promised to make the most of this opportunity. Under these conditions, Gu Xiaoyang was still confused and didn't expect why he could have such greatness, and wondered why only he could see the balloons. He seemed to take this as a gift from the gods for giving him such a unique ability, and promised to make the most of this opportunity. A few moments later, Zhang was seen now reporting what he had found earlier by saying that Xiaoyang was a pervert to the other students, which made the other students not believe what Zhang had experienced. But it wasn't long before Gu Xiaoyang reappeared, and now he's still targeting Zhang. He's continuing to chase him because he needs something from Zhang, and that's none other than his bone attribute. What Gu Xiao needed was to absorb the bone attribute as fast as he could so that his talent could be reborn, because if all he had was vitality, then it would be a waste of energy to absorb it. So if he was supposed to leave the sect later, he should at least acquire many attributes for future use. When Xiaoyang chased Zhang, shortly after that, Xiaoyang was distracted by another student who turned out to have many other attributes. This situation made Xiaoyang now target the student as well, and the two of them were now running so fast for fear of Xiaoyang's pursuit. Now Xiaoyang even chased the two people right into the crowd, so that the people there thought that Xiaoyang was a pervert. Other students started to wonder how the sect could have a person like Xiaoyang. Now Xiaoyang continued to chase and immediately said, "Stop you quickly. I'll suck you up a little more." Xiaoyang's statement made the public roar because it was so irrational given the current situation in the sect. Currently, Xiaoyang himself was considered to have reached the 5th level, so they would be very happy to defeat Gu Xiaoyang. Some people have now begun to speculate that at this time, Gu Xiaoyang was possessed by a soul-sucking female ghost, and that's why Gu Xiaoyang might still be after them. Even so, the disciples there agreed to crush Gu Xiaoyang here and defeat Gu Xiaoyang, so he couldn't mess around anymore. Xiaoyang, who heard that at this time the students would gather to attack him, made himself even more happy, because in such a situation, he could absorb the balloons that the students here had. Gu Xiaoyang would soon show off his currently developed abilities. He is currently also confused by the many people who might make it even more difficult to choose one by one a very unique balloon. Here he will focus on chasing balloons and not care if he takes a hit. Thus he was directly hit by the direct hit launched by one of the disciples. Even though he got an attack like that, he also managed to get one of the balloons that can increase his abilities. Not long after that, he also continued to be heavily attacked by the students, so he was now starting to get battered. Even so, he continued to focus on collecting the balloons available at that place. He refuses to give up as this is a great opportunity to make him even stronger. In short, once he manages to absorb so many different attributes simultaneously, eventually his cultivation base will soon reach a break. At that time, unexpectedly, Xia immediately stopped the fight because he wanted to break up the commotion. But when Xia tried to stop the fight unexpectedly, Gu Xiaoyang instead appeared right under his body and immediately asked Xia for help to stop all of this. Under the condition that Xiaoyang was staring from below, made Xia even angrier. He immediately lunged at Xiaoyang far back, and with that lunge finally, Gu Xiaoyang realized that his previous actions towards Xia were too much. Even so, he still believed that currently, Xia was an inner disciple of this sect, who was also a genius disciple responsible for calming the outer disciples. In such a state, unexpectedly, the current Xiaoyang had reached the 6th stage of Qi level. But even so, Xia did not know that, and he said that previously this Xiaoyang had been expelled and could not return to the sect. But here Gu Xiaoyang confirmed if he had reached the 6th stage, and he could join the inner disciples to take the next stage of the selection examination. Again and again here Xia directly emphasized one thing to Gu Xiaoyang, that he was a great figure. He was able to judge a person's cultivation level just by looking at him. And at this moment, Xia still thought that Gu Xiaoyang was still at the 5th level stage. Xia was really angry at this time. He said, "Level 5 is still level 5. Now go. I won't blame you for the previous incident, but if you still lie and try to cheat, then I will destroy your cultivation." At the same time, the disciples also emphasized to Xiaoyang that they also realized that Gu Xiaoyang had failed to survive in this sect. All conditions had to be met to stay in the sect, and this was a way of making one stronger. Even though many had lectured him, Gu Xiaoyang still insisted that he was currently a person with the 6th level, and even dared to bet on Xia, where he strongly emphasized that at this time he had reached the 6th stage, and to test himself if you still don't believe it. Xia was very frustrated with such a situation. Xia couldn't help but even immediately allowed Gu Xiaoyang to show off his skills. Xia even dared to bet that if the current Gu Xiaoyang managed to reach the 6th level, then he would do whatever Xiaoyang wanted. Xia stuck to his words, and a fight would soon ensue between the two of them. This kind of condition made the students there very unhappy about the actions of Gu Xiaoyang, who dared to challenge Xia. This was because Xia was the #1 genius in the clan. With the highest intelligence, his cultivation had also reached the Yuan realm, so he was only one step away from reaching the next realm. The disciples also realized that at this time, the eliminated outer disciple had created a controversy that was beyond reason, based on Gu Xiaoyang's humiliation. At this time, he didn't want to fight with Xia. He just wanted to show his ability if he was right. Has reached the 6th level. So as long as he can show that, then he will pass the test and will enter the next stage. With a plan like that, Gu Xiaoyang had to perfect the balloon attribute that was around Xia, where this attribute was truly extraordinary. Gu Xiaoyang would first take the diligence attribute, and then he would take the vitality and sword intent surrounding Xia's body. According to Xiaoyang from previous experience, vitality is very important now because it will greatly affect the effect of his cultivation ability. Then there is also another important thing, namely bone, which can improve the efficiency of absorbing vital energy, where if he has absorbed it, he even gets something that is completely beyond expectations. Not long after that, Xia also ordered Gu Xiaoyang to immediately carry out the attack. But then Gu Xiaoyang immediately told Xia that the level of strength between them was very much different from that strength. Xia could finish him off in one fell swoop, so right now Xiaoyang was worried that when the fight happened, he couldn't show his true strength. Getting a comment from Xiaoyang made Xia immediately agree to it, and told Gu Xiaoyang to give Xiaoyang his first attack so he could judge what level Xiaoyang was currently on. Xiaoyang was happy about this, and he would absorb the various orbs that were around Xia. Attacks began to be carried out by Xiaoyang, and at a time like this he managed to take vitality from Xia's body. So with this balloon he immediately tried to use it. But before that, he also kept trying to grab diligence on the other side. At this time, because Xia was trying to survive, it was quite difficult for Gu Xiaoyang to get it. But with such a high struggle and persistence, when he was defeated by Xia, it was very easy. In the end, he got something he wanted, and that something is magic balls. Because of the defeat suffered by Xiaoyang, Xia still feels that at this time Xiaoyang is not even as good as level 5. But this is an opportunity for Xiaoyang to take sword intent. Obtaining such a thing made Gu Xiaoyang immediately break through to the 6th level stage, so that there was also seen a terrifying sword aura. By getting an opportunity like this, and because he reached the 6th level, he without a second thought immediately attacked Xia. That attack was really fast and even caused Xia to be hit by an attack from Xiaoyang. Under these circumstances, even the disciples were very amazed at it and made Xia just humiliated. At this time, Xiaoyang also managed to gain the vitality that only he could see alone. With his current state, Gu Xiaoyang never even thought that this sword intent would allow him to rise from the 5th level so quickly to the 6th level. After getting an opportunity like this, and because he reached the 6th level, he without a second thought immediately attacked Xia. That attack was really fast, and even caused Xia to be hit by an attack from Xiaoyang. Under these circumstances, even the disciples were very amazed at it and made Xia just humiliated. At this time, Xiaoyang also managed to gain the vitality that only he could see alone. With his current state, Gu Xiaoyang never even thought that this sword intent would allow him to rise from the 5th level so quickly to the 6th level. After getting an opportunity like this, and because he reached the 6th level, he without a second thought immediately attacked Xia. That attack was really fast, and even caused Xia to be hit by an attack from Xiaoyang. Under these circumstances, even the disciples were very amazed at it, and made Xia just humiliated. At this time, Xiaoyang also managed to gain the vitality that only he could see alone. With his current state, Gu Xiaoyang never even thought that this sword intent would allow him to rise from the 5th level so quickly to the 6th level. Under these circumstances, the disciples were very amazed at it, and made Xia feel humiliated just like that. At this time, Xiaoyang also managed to gain the vitality that only he could see alone. With his current state, Gu Xiaoyang never even thought that this sword intent would allow him to rise from the 5th level so quickly to the 6th level. Under these circumstances, the disciples were very amazed at it, and made Xia feel humiliated just like that. At this time, Xiaoyang also managed to gain the vitality that only he could see alone. With his current state, Gu Xiaoyang never even thought that this sword intent would allow him to rise from the 5th level so quickly to the 6th level. Soon Xia also thought that all of this was impossible. How could Gu Xiaoyang be able to reach level 6 and get a sword aura? Aura itself could only be obtained from someone who had trained for many years. So how could the outer sect disciple obtain such an ability? Hearing that, Xiaoyang then immediately explained to Xia that the ability he got earlier was because of Xia himself, because the bet Xia gave was very tempting, and anyone would want to win it. The students were also very surprised by this situation, and this condition also allowed Gu Xiaoyang to officially pass and be able to take the next test. After all this happened, Xia would immediately leave there. But before that, he also kept making promises to Gu Xiaoyang, where if Gu Xiaoyang had thought of what he wanted to come to the front of the inner gate and immediately tell him. This situation made the disciples also dumbfounded while Xiaoyang kept thinking about what he wanted from Xia. But before that, he had to forget about that for a while because right now, he had to immediately go to the Tibetan scripture pavilion to improve his skills. A while later, Xiaoyang also realized that there was one technique that was quite formidable, namely the lone kill sword technique, which could be considered the best technique. And he also heard rumors that if he could do very good training, then Xiaoyang would also get the strength of the earth stage first. Here Xiaoyang also realized that most of the outer disciples' attributes had been absorbed by him, and the essence stones were no longer there. The vitality of a dead human being was even very good for increasing cultivation. Right now, Xiaoyang wanted to do the preparation for his entrance exam, which he would be doing soon. He had to take action to improve his abilities. A few days later, he headed to Killian Mountain, where he saw a huge bear that also had balloons on its body. It's an attribute balloon with level 2 in that bear he's trying to finish off the current bear. Within the forest itself, it turns out that many beasts have cultivation levels of 1st and 2nd. These beasts on the Tianyuan continent are equivalent to the Qi cultivation realm. The 3rd and 4th grades are equivalent to the Juyuan realm, while the 5th and 6th grades refer to the more ephemeral realm. Then the 7th and 8th grades refer to the Xuanpil, and the 9th ranks refer to the Shenhai realm. Whereas this bear was at least currently at the upper level of Xiaoyang. But Xiaoyang did not give up so easily. While in a different place now, it can be seen that a group of troops have succeeded in killing one of the bears. The group of troops was led by someone really strong named Hua Shirong. At this time, his subordinate disciples were telling news about the defeat of the Xia battle against the outer sect disciple Xiaoyang, and even being rewarded for doing whatever he wanted. At this time, Shurong was angry with Xiaoyang. As a senior, he would teach Xiaoyang a lesson, where he and his men kept trying to explore this forest to find Xiaoyang. Meanwhile, Xiaoyang was currently fighting it out with a figure monster bear. Xiaoyang tried to get the balls in the bear to absorb them as fast as possible. He began to use his ability to do absorption, so that when he succeeded in absorbing the various attributes possessed by the bear, he then used his lone kill sword technique, so that soon the bear perished with just one slash. Under these circumstances, Gu Xiaoyang didn't expect that the strength he got was so strong that even the attack he released was quite formidable. When he managed to defeat the bear unexpectedly, a group of troops led by Shurong now came over to him, while praising the greatness of Xiaoyang, who was more or less currently still reaching the 6th level. Shurong started to boast about herself, so that Gu Xiaoyang didn't care about her. But it was because of that one of the students said that Shurong was ranked 30th best student of the inner disciples, and currently her position reached 28, so Xiaoyang had to respect her automatically. Although receiving such an explanation made Gu Xiaoyang then says that he didn't care about rank 30 because he didn't even know who ranks number 2 was. This impoliteness from Xiaoyang made Shurong angry and ordered her men to teach her a lesson. But one of the men then was easily defeated by Xiaoyang. This situation made the remaining men begin to understand the power possessed by Xiaoyang, where Xiaoyang cannot be underestimated. But even so, Shurong would immediately give Gu Xiaoyang an advanced attack. Shurong even said that the reason for her attacking Xiaoyang was only because she was trying to take Xia away. Now the two of them were talking. Shurong tried to explain to Gu Xiaoyang that soon Xiaoyang would be devoured by the monsters here. But Xiaoyang then tricks Shurong into allowing him to escape from the place and look for various attributes to increase his abilities. This was done by Xiaoyang because currently his abilities are still very weak and he needs more attributes to beat that Shurong. Under these circumstances, Xiaoyang will continue to be in this forest looking for various animals that he can hunt and can increase his cultivation. Shortly when he was in the middle of the forest like that, he came across an unexpected incident that happened between one of the women and a man. Within his vision, Xiaoyang saw clearly that the skill the woman's technique was truly formidable and could even finish off the male figure with just one lethal strike. Xiaoyang was truly terrified by this situation because this woman had quite the potential. Luckily, Xiaoyang, who was currently hiding, managed to see the balloon that was on the man, and he immediately took his attribute. Not long after, it turned out that at this time, the woman was completely ambushed by a group of troops. The army was currently determined to fight against the palace, so it could be concluded that this woman was from the palace. She was also a princess who had coincidentally appeared on Killian Mountain, and this was an opportunity for the troops to finish off the royal princess. Among the troops themselves, there was someone who was quite overpowered, and turned out to be the leader of this army, and was the god of the Killian Mountain. He was currently giving the princess a message if Master Xingjun told him to come to a designated place. The princess is now trying to refuse it, and with this situation, there is no other choice for the wandering god, who then immediately orders his troops to attack the princess. Here the wandering god was arrogant, thinking that such an important matter should be reported to the heavenly officials, including Master Xingjun. At this time, Xiaoyang had to continue to use his ability to absorb all the attributes here. But not long after he made an unexpected absorption, the troops from Shurong had noticed the place and were about to charge towards Xiaoyang. That attack made Xiaoyang immediately evade, and in this state, Xiaoyang immediately lured the entire people into a battle between greats. Xiaoyang argued that he was currently being chased by 3 thugs. He tried to defend himself, but the mountain god Killian immediately ordered his troops to finish off everyone in this place because it was too noisy. Attacks began to be launched by the troops so that the Shurong troops tried to survive. Xiaoyang, who was stuck in this trouble, tried to survive too, and because he was still having a hard time, he thought of taking cover behind that strong woman. He started to do so, but suddenly the woman released a very frightening sword aura, which turned out to be a killing aura. Just looking at that sword aura made Xiaoyang sure that at this moment, the woman had a really strong attribute which turned out to be a killing intent. He realized that this technique of killing intent was far more powerful than Xia's previous sword intent technique. Gu Xiaoyang tried to fight women first this time because it would be more to his advantage. In such a condition, he tries to seize the attributes around him, and in this condition, the woman does not allow that, so the fight starts there. But even though he was hit by an attack, Gu Xiaoyang managed to get that attribute, and he immediately used it so that his aura was now very strong, and his killing aura was also very pronounced. The aura of killing intent was also felt by the woman, so this woman was confused as to why this man could use the same ability as her in just a short time. A fierce battle began to occur in that place. The woman also put out all her abilities to defeat the troops owned by the mountain god Killian, but when she was off guard suddenly, the mountain god Killian immediately attacked from behind with a high-level technique through an abnormal hand. Before the attack occurred, the mountain god Killian had immediately told the princess that the current princess had reached the condensation realm 3 years ago, and today let her learn the true power of the blood kite. The princess who heard that immediately blocked the attack while saying that the mountain god Killian was not worthy of using the blood kite ability. Hearing the name blood kite made Shurong realize that this woman was the reincarnation of a blood kite who had the talents and abilities that all cultivators dreamed of, even being able to make her many times faster than the speed of ordinary cultivators. If someone who is a descendant of a blood kite could survive, the achievement of the latter can surpass the divine sea realm. The condition is only survival, and according to rumors it is said that the blood kite is an ancient evil creature, and he only acknowledges one person as master in his life, and he will never change until he dies. The people who incarnated from him were also geniuses. They brought the reincarnated blood kite to live in the Holy Land and developed into medicine because the blood kite would always incarnate, which means their medicine will always be there all the time. Medicine Citation knew their fate. Now every time a blood kite reincarnated, the celestial warriors would be dispatched to send the blood kite to the mortal dynasty and then to the Holy Land, and his whole family would be exterminated there as well. In this way, the blood kite was regarded as the enemy of the various sects, and because of this, Shurong convinced Xiaoyang one thing. If Gu Xiaoyang had a relationship with the blood kite, and if the sect found out about it, then Gu Xiaoyang would be expelled very ruthlessly, and his whole family will be finished there too. In this way, the blood kite was regarded as the enemy of the various sects, and because of this, Shurong convinced Xiaoyang one thing. If Gu Xiaoyang had a relationship with the blood kite, and if the sect found out about it, then Gu Xiaoyang would be expelled very ruthlessly, and his whole family will be finished there too. In this way, the blood kite was regarded as the enemy of the various sects, and because of this, Shurong convinced Xiaoyang one thing. If Gu Xiaoyang had a relationship with the blood kite, and if the sect found out about it, then Gu Xiaoyang would be expelled very ruthlessly. Under these conditions, finally Xiaoyang also realized that the woman was the reincarnation of the blood kite, and after she absorbed the killing intent earlier, she became the same as that woman, and it can be said that at this time the woman was also helping Xiaoyang in the current resistance. The woman alone managed to give a heavy blow to God Killian, so that he was now sprawled backward. Fortunately at that time, it turned out that the figures of 4 heavenly officials named Xie Wuliang came, and upon the arrival of Wuliang made the princess even more surprised, while God Killian was now with his army immediately begging for forgiveness from Wuliang's figure, not only from the God Killian's side. At this time Shurong also seems to be looking for face against Wuliang. He said that he was an inner disciple of the Qingyun sect, and now they had made the mistake of coming here after chasing scum from a sect that was none other than Xiaoyang. Under these circumstances, Wuliang now felt sympathy because he also had friendly ties with the sect from Qingyun. Finding a position like this also made Gu Xiaoyang immediately leave, because at this moment another figure came, stronger than before. He didn't want it to end like this. Seeing Xiaoyang running away made Wuliang order Tao, the Killian god, to chase after him. But when Chao did that, the woman immediately got in the way because the fight between them had not yet ended. When the woman wanted to attack suddenly, Wuliang said that her opponent was her. The princess named Qing Ying didn't know what was going on, and she would have to face this Wuliang figure in this state. Wuliang also emphasized to Princess Qing Ying that if Princess Qing Ying would never escape the pursuit of the heavenly palace. Besides that, Gu Xiaoyang was carrying out a hideout with the tactic he had implemented. Currently, he was being chased by Chao's figure. Here Xiaoyang also realized one thing, where even though he had succeeded in absorbing the various attributes of beasts, he still couldn't run away from someone like Chao. At a time like that, suddenly Tao disappeared, and it turned out that there was Xiaoyang behind him, who, instead of being afraid, was happy because Chao had fallen into his trap. So Chao now actually destroyed the eggs of a wild animal, namely a snake. Xiaoyang then said to Chao at this time, "It seems that you have done something bad, and under these circumstances he will be attacked by an enormous figure." Sure enough, the snake immediately attacked Chao, so Chao was immediately entangled very, very hard, as if he could no longer survive. Xiaoyang then said that this is a Tier 4 giant python whose strength has reached the peak of Zhu Yuan. When it came here, it had planned everything. Now is the time for Chao to feel the fury of a Tier 4 beast. The snake is now directly attacking Chao, but Chao emphasized one thing: if a snake like this could never finish him. Knowing that this was the case, Xiaoyang didn't want to waste this opportunity, and he immediately put all his energy into a systematic attack. The attack began, but before the attack occurred, it turned out that Chao had succeeded in killing the snake figure, so that at this time the snake was dying very cruelly. He then said that at this time Xiaoyang had made a very fatal mistake, because this python was still too weak for him. He also tells about his experience in the Heavenly Palace to become 12 gods of the Great Yuan Empire, where one of the conditions is to be in the realm of condensation. Suddenly, Xiaoyang immediately attacked at such a high speed that Xiaoyang managed to injure Chao's body. This very fast attack made Chao completely powerless again, and he then immediately told Xiaoyang how could Xiaoyang do this even though Xiaoyang was on qi training. Hearing this, Gu Xiaoyang then said that his sword had been coated with king cobra poison. So with all this, he could carry out attacks so fast, and the poison had now begun to spread to Chao's body, so that he was now completely helpless, and slowly perished. This extremely lethal attack that came from Gu Xiaoyang was the poison he was going to use on Shirong. But because Chao was more dangerous, he then finished off Chao with this kind of attack. Gu Xiaoyang also said it's a shame that it seems that someone who goes through the realm of condensation vitality will be very high, and no vitality will come out of that person's body, so in this state, Xiaoyang can't absorb the energy ball. But even so, he took the mask that was the mask of the wandering god from the Heavenly Palace. He kept this thinking that it might someday be of use to him. Not long after, Shirong and 2 of his men now met Xiaoyang. There, Shirong had no idea how Lord Cao could die. Shirong then said that this is impossible. Even I, who is in the middle stage of the Zhu Yuan realm, cannot beat Master Cao. How can an outer disciple in the Qi cultivation realm be able to finish him off? He must have encountered a Tier 4 beast, and then you attacked him from behind. Here Xiaoyang was just saying maybe, but with a truly lethal smile. Under these circumstances, Shirong ordered his men to attack immediately. But the 2 men were then finished off very easily by Xiaoyang with his new skills and techniques. Shirong really couldn't help thinking about this state of affairs. He wondered if this Xiaoyang was only at the 6th level of Qi training, and how could he defeat 2 Qi practitioners at the 8th level? Here Gu Xiaoyang again assured that what Shirong had done was wrong because Shirong had no excuse, specifically to finish him just because of Xia. He was willing to kill people he had never met and had no grudges against. Even though he was lectured like that, Shirong then said that whatever the reason, he would still kill Gu Xiaoyang. Shirong started attacking because she thought Xiaoyang was the weakest. But while in this state, Gu Xiaoyang also realized that Shirong's abilities were above his. So he had to use a swift attack to defeat Shirong. In this condition, because Shirong was too ambitious to finish off Xiaoyang, she began to lose focus, and she started to lose control over Xiaoyang's figure. The battle was now getting fiercer, and made Shirong keep trying to beat Xiaoyang. The swords between them were now clashing with each other, and unexpectedly, Shirong's sword was now broken, and Xiaoyang managed to become the winner. Right now, Gu Xiaoyang was about to finish off Shirong, who then asked, "How does it feel to be defeated by a sword that belongs to me, who is only an outer disciple, whose cultivation stage is still very low?" Under these circumstances, Shirong didn't expect why could be defeated by someone she thought was weak like Xiaoyang. He began to lose focus, and he began to lose control over Xiaoyang's figure. The battle was now getting fiercer and made Shirong keep trying to beat Xiaoyang. The swords between them were now clashing with each other, and unexpectedly, Shurong's sword was now broken, and Xiaoyang managed to become the winner. Right now, Gu Xiaoyang was about to finish off Shurong, who then asked, "How does it feel to be defeated by a sword that belongs to me, who is only an outer disciple, whose cultivation stage is still very low?" Under these circumstances, Shurong didn't expect why could be defeated by someone she thought was weak like Xiaoyang. He began to lose focus, and he began to lose control of Xiaoyang's figure. The battle was now getting fiercer, and made Shurong keep trying to beat Xiaoyang. The swords between them were now clashing with each other, and unexpectedly, Shurong's sword was now broken, and Xiaoyang managed to become the winner. Right now, Gu Xiaoyang was about to finish off Shurong, who then asked, "How does it feel to be defeated by a sword that belongs to me, who is only an outer disciple, whose cultivation stage is still very low?" Under these circumstances, Shurong didn't expect that she could be defeated by someone she thought was weak like Xiaoyang. The swords between them were now clashing with each other, and unexpectedly, Shurong's sword was now broken, and Xiaoyang managed to become the winner. Right now, Gu Xiaoyang was about to finish off Shurong, who then asked, "How does it feel to be defeated by a sword that belongs to me, who is only an outer disciple whose cultivation stage is still very low?" Under these circumstances, Shurong didn't expect that she could be defeated by someone she thought was weak like Xiaoyang. The swords between them were now clashing with each other, and unexpectedly Shurong's sword was now broken, and Xiaoyang managed to become the winner. Right now, Gu Xiaoyang was about to finish off Shurong, who then asked, "How does it feel to be defeated by a sword that belongs to me, who is only an outer disciple, whose cultivation stage is still very low?" Under these circumstances, Shurong didn't expect that she could be defeated by someone she thought was weak like Xiaoyang. Being in this state also made Gu Xiaoyang realize that his current abilities were too strong, that even his combined attacks were able to defeat an inner disciple within Central Zhuan with a single strike. This must be thanks to the absorption of the energy he obtained earlier. It was also at this time that Shurong realized that she was too careless, and that she was currently defeated by Xiaoyang. Even so, Gu Xiaoyang then, without thinking about it, will immediately finish off Shurong. But not long after, suddenly troops from Wuliang came there. The arrival of the heavenly army caught Xiaoyang off guard, and in the end, Shurong managed to escape. Shurong told Xiaoyang to wait for her to come back later. She will finish him off in the sect. Now Xiaoyang realized that the celestial troops had already arrived in great numbers, and the celestial officials were probably far above his level, so he should have left this place immediately with the speed he had. When he was about to escape, he always thought of Princess Qing Ying, and he tried to help her, because he realized that the princess was not a bad person. Moreover, it seemed that her strength was also not up to par with that heavenly official. At such confusion, Xiaoyang immediately went to the previous place where he wanted to see the state of this Qingying princess. When he was about to escape, he always thought of Princess Qingying, and he tried to help her, because he realized that the princess was not a bad person. Moreover, it seemed that her strength was also not up to par with that heavenly official. At such confusion, Xiaoyang immediately went to the previous place where he wanted to see the state of this Qingying princess. When he was about to escape, he always thought of Princess Qingying, and he tried to help her because he realized that the princess was not a bad person. Moreover, it seemed that her strength was also not up to par with that heavenly official. At such confusion, Xiaoyang immediately went to the previous place where he wanted to see the state of this Qingying princess. But when he came there suddenly, the place was very quiet. He didn't know who won the fight. In this condition, he tries to leave from there because he doesn't find anything. But before long, a figure of heavenly official Wuliang came there saying something very tense. "Are you here to save him, or die by my hands?" Gu Xiaoyang tried to run away, but with the divine official's abilities, he easily overthrew Gu Xiaoyang. Wuliang at this time planned to make the princess come back to save Xiaoyang so that she could hunt 2 small fish at once. In this condition, Xiaoyang then said that if there was a misunderstanding that occurred, he was not a great person. He was just a tiny outer disciple. He's never even heard of his name. So let me go. Wuliang doesn't even believe in it. And he tells Xiaoyang to prove one thing. Wuliang then tells Xiaoyang to tell the truth about the blood kite. And what's the point for the Holy Land? But here Gu Xiaoyang didn't know the answer because he didn't know it. On this basis, Wu Liang began to realize that this boy also did not understand and had nothing to do with Princess Qingying. But to prove all that, he would immediately carry out a crushing attack on this Xiaoyang so that if the princess managed to come to save him, it would mean that there was a connection between them. Wu Liang didn't believe it either, and he asked Xiaoyang to prove one thing. Wu Liang then told Xiaoyang to tell the truth about the blood kite and what was good for the Holy Land. But here Gu Xiaoyang didn't know the answer because he didn't know it. On this basis, Wu Liang began to realize that this boy also did not understand and had nothing to do with Princess Qingying. But to prove all that, he would immediately carry out a crushing attack on this Xiaoyang, so that if the princess managed to come to save him, it would mean that there was a connection between them. Wu Liang didn't believe it either, and he asked Xiaoyang to prove one thing. Wu Liang then told Xiaoyang to tell the truth about the blood kite and what was good for the Holy Land. But here Gu Xiaoyang didn't know the answer because he didn't know it. On this basis, Wu Liang began to realize that this boy also did not understand and had nothing to do with Princess Qingying. But to prove all that, he would immediately carry out a crushing attack on this Xiaoyang, so that if the princess managed to come to save him, it would mean that there was a connection between them. Wu Liang then told Xiaoyang to tell the truth regarding the blood kite and what was good for the Holy Land. But here Gu Xiaoyang didn't know the answer, because he didn't know it. On this basis, Wu Liang began to realize that this boy also did not understand and had nothing to do with Princess Qingying. But to prove all that, he would immediately carry out a crushing attack on this Xiaoyang, so that if the princess managed to come to save him, it would mean that there was a connection between them. Wu Liang then told Xiaoyang to tell the truth regarding the blood kite and what was good for the Holy Land. But here Gu Xiaoyang didn't know the answer because he didn't know it. On this basis, Wu Liang began to realize that this boy also did not understand and had nothing to do with Princess Qingying. But to prove all that, he would immediately carry out a crushing attack on this Xiaoyang, so that if the princess managed to come to save him, it would mean that there was a connection between them. Not long after, the Wu Liang immediately launched an attack, but Princess Qingying unexpectedly came there to prevent the attack. In this way, it meant that Wu Liang concluded that there was a connection between Xiaoyang and this Princess Qingying. At this time, Princess Qingying didn't want to waste any time, so she started to attack with a very powerful technique, especially what was later called Royal Emperor Dragon Qi. The deadly attack was then successfully blocked by the figure of Wu Liang with her ability on the first try. Princess Qingying had to fail the attack because it was successfully broken, and made Wu Liang say that her Dragon Qi was still too weak. Princess Qingying did not give up. He again released his abilities, and at this time, he released such a high technique. But still, those attacks were successfully broken by Wu Liang's figure. Under these circumstances, Princess Qingying also saw a ball of energy emitting, and Xiaoyang was aware of that. He also realized that Princess Qingying was currently too overwhelmed by Wu Liang's figure. Even in that state, he found a Royal Emperor Dragon Qi that was in the form of an energy ball, and with this attribute, he realized that it was very strong. He immediately used this ability on his body. When Xiaoyang used that ability, right now the position of the princess was threatened because now Wu Liang would immediately destroy the princess's Royal Emperor Dragon Qi, as well as finish her off. By getting that new ability, he immediately collected it and combined it with all the power he had, so that the attack he was released at this time was absolutely devastating and headed straight for Wu Liang. Such an attack was initially underestimated by Wu Liang because such an attack was impossible to defeat him. He then greatly underestimated it and only used one hand to block the attack. But because of this, he was also careless and had to receive such a terrifying and crushing attack from that figure. Xiaoyang. Under these circumstances, he didn't even realize what was going on. But it was too late because such a good opportunity was not wasted by the figure of Princess Qingying. The attacks received by Wu Liang now made him very badly injured. Under these conditions, Princess Qingying immediately took Xiaoyang away from there before Wu Liang grew angry and became a completely uncontrollable person. They now arrived at a safe and controlled place where Qingying told Xiaoyang that currently their conditions were safe, and Wu Liang's figure might not be able to get up for the time being because of the attack he had received earlier. Under these circumstances, they finally both got acquainted and know each other's names from them. Here Qing Ying also said, if she is the princess of the great Yuan Empire and soon there will be some people to pick her up. Xiaoyang can only remind him to be careful because the hunters are always after him. In this way, it can be said that the relationship between them has become even closer, especially since Xiaoyang has said that he is an outer disciple of the Qingyun sect, and he currently has to go on a journey to become a disciple. Here too, the princess thanked Xiaoyang for saving her. Xiaoyang, who heard that, felt the same way, and he also expressed his gratitude that Princess Qing Ying had dared to come back and save him earlier. Soon the troops from Princess Qing Ying arrived, and they were very apologetic because they had been late to pick them up. They immediately brought the princess back to the palace and received special treatment in a safe place. Soon the troops from Princess Qing Ying arrived, and they were very apologetic because they had been late to pick them up. They immediately brought the princess back to the palace and received special treatment and a safe place. Soon the troops from Princess Qing Ying arrived, and they were very apologetic because they had been late to pick them up. They immediately brought the princess back to the palace and received special treatment and a safe place. Sometime later, Xiaoyang returned and arrived at the Qingyun sect, where he managed to gain a lot of experience from the incident he experienced. He also now felt that in the future he would rarely venture out and remained focused on the sect, as well as improving his abilities. Not long after that, Xiaoyang also had the arrival of his friend Zhang, and he thought that soon Zhang would have prepared everything regarding a major annual exam. There, Zhang not only reported that he also reported about Shurong's anger. Shurong returned to the sect and searched Xiaoyang earlier. Under these circumstances, Xiaoyang would immediately issue a warning to that Shurong, while Zhang was very surprised to see that aura was so different from Xiaoyang. Soon, Xiaoyang also received information that at this time, Xiaoyang had been awaited by Jia to give the previously promised gift. Xiaoyang rushed to go to the location that Xiaoyang had planned to do, but he had to forget about it because he focused on increasing his cultivation first. 3 days later, now comes a big exam event, where at this time there are already many students who are ready to beat the test. There, Jia begins to give some direction regarding the situation they will run into. The first top 10 will get a medium-grade stone, and the best 3 will receive a UN pill. The first prize winner will get a top-grade martial technique, and those who have reached the 6 Qi cultivation technique can enter. And if they pass the things that are tested, they can pass too. The first test is a wooden doll. The students are also required to put up a fight against the wooden doll and reach a predetermined agreement. The first participant to appear is Tang Min, a really strong person who is currently rumored to have reached the 9th level of Qi training. In this condition, Zhang told Xiaoyang that the wooden human doll's first test was a pretty difficult one, where even though level 6 was able to enter, even level 7 last year had a little difficulty. The rules of the exam itself are to complete the exam, but time is equally important because the best pass will be determined by how fast they can beat the exam. During the exam conditions, the professor immediately told Xia that he had heard the news that Xia had previously lost a bet with Xiaoyang, a boy from an outer sect who had won a bet against him. The current teacher will also oversee this exam to find out who the talented students belong to the Qingyun sect. At that place, the teacher also continues to warn Xia to prepare for a competition between the 4 sects. There, the teacher also says, if there is a superior figure who is capable, that one from a snow village called Linjiang was already earlier than you at the middle stage of condensation, said the teacher. Xia then could only say, if he would do his best and do his best. Even so, the teacher also reminded Xia that he should also continue to be careful and not perform secret techniques to reach the late stage of condensation. Although Linjiang was the first genius of Northern Snow Village, looking at the other great UN countries, he was only at the bottom of the list. It's just a sect competition. So don't take too many risks to win, said the teacher, who is more concerned with the safety of his students. Xia also understood that and expressed various thanks. Meanwhile, in the exam arena, where this time Tang Min unexpectedly came out in less than 2 minutes, he was really fast, and one could say he would soon take the top prize. But next, it was Xiaoyang's turn to decide not to hide his strength. He will soon show his true ability. He began to enter into the wooden doll, and there he found out that this wooden machine had a qi that made it more difficult to deal with. With a wooden doll like this, he can also take all the chi energy balls that are around the wooden doll. He didn't hesitate to do so again, and when he managed to absorb the chi from the wooden man, his violence was now greatly reduced, and it was much easier to defeat the wooden puppets. He has now succeeded in eliminating all the wooden dolls and coming out very quickly. This kind of situation made many students very surprised, especially now that Xiaoyang has become a truly great figure. Under these circumstances, Zhang then reported to Xiaodan, also the teacher, that the wooden doll had now been destroyed by someone. Hearing the news from Zhang made even the teacher feel completely shocked because how could every wooden puppet possessing the strength of Qi training level 6 be destroyed together? According to him, the wooden human room can only be passed by genius because it is very difficult to destroy. But now there is someone who has managed to destroy it. With this condition, even the teacher would immediately look at it. When he got there, he really couldn't deny it anymore, because it was genuine. Even this piece seemed to have been cut by a sword, and he seemed to have slashed straight at the wood without dodging it in the slightest. Here finally the teacher realized that all these actions were done by Xiaoyang himself. It was on this basis that Xia became a little suspicious of Xiaoyang. He asked, "Tell me, what demonic magic did you use to cut all the wooden people into pieces?" With this condition, even the teacher would immediately look at it. When he got there, he really couldn't deny it anymore because it was genuine. Even this piece seemed to have been cut by a sword, and he seemed to have slashed straight at the wood without dodging it in the slightest. Here, finally, the teacher realized that all these actions were done by Xiaoyang himself. It was on this basis that Xia became a little suspicious of Xiaoyang. He asked, "Tell me, what demonic magic did you use to cut all the wooden people into pieces?" With this condition, even the teacher would immediately look at it. When he got there, he really couldn't deny it anymore because it was genuine. Even this piece seemed to have been cut by a sword, and he seemed to have slashed straight at the wood without dodging it in the slightest. Here, finally, the teacher realized that all these actions were done by Xiaoyang himself. It was on this basis that Xia became a little suspicious of Xiaoyang. He asked, "Tell me, what demonic magic did you use to cut all the wooden people into pieces?" Even this piece seemed to have been cut by a sword, and he seemed to have slashed straight at the wood without dodging it in the slightest. Here, finally, the teacher realized that all these actions were done by Xiaoyang himself. It was on this basis that Xia became a little suspicious of Xiaoyang. He asked, "Tell me, what demonic magic did you use to cut all the wooden people into pieces?" Even this piece seemed to have been cut by a sword, and he seemed to have slashed straight at the wood without dodging it in the slightest. Here, finally, the teacher realized that all these actions were done by Xiaoyang himself. It was on this basis that Xia became a little suspicious of Xiaoyang. He asked, "Tell me, what demonic magic did you use to cut all the wooden people into pieces?" Hearing this, Xiaoyang immediately said that the quality of the wooden man was not very good, so he was very easy to cut with only one slash. This also made Xia surprised, because it was very impossible even though the wooden people had been given vitality by the elders. How to cut him with a single slash under these conditions. Finally, the teacher also noticed that at this time, Xiaoyang was no longer in Qi Training 6th tier, but was already on par with Qi Training Tier 9. The students there were completely shocked by this. That also included Xia, even though previously he had done the testing himself if it was clear that Xiaoyang was still at the Qi level 6 stage. But now he had reached the Qi training level 9 in just a month. Xia even said that all of this was impossible, because he who was famous as a genius, who appeared in hundreds of years, needed almost 2 years to rise from 6th tier to 9th tier. But this Xiaoyang only needed 1 month to get there. This is something that is beyond reason at all. The disciples were extremely shocked by this discovery, even though previously Xiaoyang was almost expelled from the sect for being too weak. Here, Xiaoyang couldn't help but have to make comments. He said so he previously went to the pavilion to find the Tibetan scriptures to learn the lone kill sword technique. Then he went to Chilean Mountain and had some amazing experiences. Just 2 days ago he passed the 9th level. With this kind of situation making Xia even more furious, he didn't expect that at this time Xiaoyang would be such a formidable figure, especially now that Xiaoyang had also learned a sword intent, and even being able to use the lone kill sword technique. This situation made even the teacher very happy, because he did not expect that there would be a talent possessed by the Qingyun sect, and be able to reach such an amazing stage. The teacher then said the heavens had truly blessed the Qingyun sect because another supreme genius had appeared and told Xiaoyang to still do his best in the next round of the competition. Xiaoyang was also very grateful for that, and he would give other surprises. Then came the second place to continue the test. This kind of situation also made Tang Min quite annoyed. He didn't expect that the information he got was wrong. He thought that if Xiaoyang was only at 6th level, he never imagined that Xiaoyang had also reached Qi training 9th level. Even so, if he was pushed later, Tang Min would immediately use a secret medicine from Shurong that could make him much stronger and finish off Xiaoyang. Tang Min did this so he could have Hua Shurong's protection when he entered the inner sect disciple. The various tests on the first day had been successfully conducted, and the next day arrived, and now all the participants who passed the first trial would be competing for the top 10 in the 8 arenas. The fight started, and at that time Xiaoyang very easily and quickly managed to beat all the other participants. He managed to become a truly formidable figure, and even took the enemy's side completely by surprise. Victory after victory continued to be won by Gu Xiaoyang, so in the end this made the teacher feel very happy. He wanted to quickly find a suitable teacher for Xiaoyang. And after the fights happened, there came a final match that pitted Gu Xiaoyang against Tang Min, where this would be the final round and the final fight for the top spot. Under these conditions, many students are currently cheering for Xiaoyang's victory. Then Tang Min immediately told Xiaoyang that at this time, he did not expect Xiaoyang to get to the finals. Xiaoyang said that it was just luck. He will bring out his best in this battle arena. But still, Tang Min would never let that happen, because he had to get first place. He would never give up on Xiaoyang. Thus the match began between Xiaoyang and Tang Min. Without thinking, Xiaoyang immediately used a sword intent technique, knowing that the teacher didn't expect that even this kid could understand sword intent. In this condition, Tang Min finally realized that if it was a sword intent technique, of course, his strength would be faster than him. Soon, Tang Min was getting hit after attack launched by Xiaoyang. In this condition, it was also seen that the previous attack from Xiaoyang was now able to split the arena in that place. This situation made everyone even more shocked. Tang Min didn't even know why this all happened. Even though Shurong said it was obvious that Xiaoyang was only at the 6th level of Qi training. Then when he wasn't focused like this, he was suddenly hit by a direct hit, because at this moment Xiaoyang was attacking blindly right in front of him. Tang Min was in such a depressed state, thinking that there was no other way for him. He immediately used a secret pill that could increase his strength by several times at a critical moment. This medicine was a gift from Shurong, who was convinced that it could be used to kill Xiaoyang. Tang Min was very sure that this medicine would make him much stronger. He immediately used a secret pill that could increase his strength to several folds at a critical moment. This medicine was a gift from Shurong, who was convinced that it could be used to kill Xiaoyang. Tang Min was very sure that this medicine would make him much stronger. He immediately used a secret pill that could increase his strength to several folds at a critical moment. This medicine was a gift from Shurong, who was convinced that it could be used to kill Xiaoyang. Tang Min was very sure that this medicine would make him much stronger. He immediately consumed the drug, and not long after, suddenly his energy was now increasing very rapidly. Under these circumstances, the teacher realized that Tang Min had already consumed a forbidden-type pill. This pill itself is a kind of secret. The teacher then said, if he has been making pills for more than half his life and he has studied the many kinds of pills in the world very carefully, this kind of pill is also extremely dangerous. Each pill has its properties, certain drugs that can be reversed in the user's body. Humans can only use a small number of warm pills to affect daily practice to speed up the body's absorption of heaven and earth energy. The damage to the human body is minimal once, but with the secret pill, it will destroy everything. Even if you are still taking the secret pill, it will never improve the practice. Unmitigated damage to the body will soon be obtained. This pill is how it works, directly stimulates all potential human body, and it would instantly raise one's cultivation level until one's realm breakthrough, and instantly cripple the body's entire vital energy in its most dominant form. In short, it can be said that by consuming pills, all the cultivation that has been trained will be in vain. This kind of situation also makes Xiaoyang very unexpected, that to get to the first rank, Tang Min is willing to do all this. Even if you still take the secret pill, it will never improve one's practice, and unmitigated damage to the body will soon be obtained. This pill's way of working directly stimulates all potentials of the human body, and it will directly increase one's cultivation level until one's realm breakthroughs and immediately paralyzes all of the body's vital energy in its most dominant form. In short, it can be said that by consuming pills, all the cultivation that has been trained will be in vain. This kind of situation also makes Xiaoyang very unexpected, that to get to the first rank, Tang Min is willing to do all this. Even if you still take the secret pill, it will never improve one's practice, and unmitigated damage to the body will soon be obtained. This pill's way of working directly stimulates all potentials of the human body, and it will directly increase one's cultivation level, until one's realm breakthroughs, and immediately paralyzes all of the body's vital energy in its most dominant form. In short, it can be said that by consuming pills, all the cultivation that has been trained will be in vain. This kind of situation also makes Xiaoyang very unexpected, that to get to the first rank, Tang Min is willing to do all this. This pill's way of working was to directly stimulate the human body's all potential, and it would instantly raise one's cultivation level to the point of breaking through one's realm and instantly crippling the body's entire vital energy in its most dominant form. In short, it can be said that by consuming pills, all the cultivation that has been trained will be in vain. This kind of situation also makes Xiaoyang very unexpected, that to get to the first rank, Tang Min is willing to do all this. This pill's way of working was to directly stimulate the human body's all potential, and it would instantly raise one's cultivation level to the point of breaking through one's realm and instantly crippling the body's entire vital energy in its most dominant form. In short, it can be said that by consuming pills, all the cultivation that has been trained will be in vain. This kind of situation also makes Xiaoyang very unexpected, that to get to the first rank, Tang Min is willing to do all this. Unexpectedly, Tang Min was also currently extremely irritated by this situation, especially with Shirong for hurting herself with these drugs. Under such pain, Tang Min was so furious at Hua Shirong that it later sounded in Xiaoyang's ears, making him realize that Tang Min had been ordered by Shirong to take drugs only to finish him off. Thus, Tang Min was now really going wild and his body was out of control at all. It was as if he wasn't the same as before. The attacks he did were like an attack where he leaked his vital energy. Xiaoyang kept trying to avoid it, and didn't forget Xiaoyang looked at Tang Min, and he saw a demonic energy balloon. Immediately the master shouted that the secret pill came from the devil's sect, and he begged Xiaoyang to stop Tang Min. In this condition, Xiaoyang had no other choice. He would make sure about the attributes possessed by this black figure. In such a situation, Xiaoyang directly gave him a heavy punch, and then he managed to get that attribute. He didn't try to absorb this attribute, but automatically the attribute was then immediately sucked into his body. In this state suddenly, when Xia approached to help him, Xiaoyang accidentally attacked Xia. But in such circumstances, everyone thought that the attack just now was issued by Tang Min. Currently, Tang Min was getting weaker and helpless, and because his devil attribute had been absorbed at this time, he was back to normal. But in a situation where Tang Min is lying down, the teacher will try to treat him first. Meanwhile, with the treatment that was caused by Xiaoyang earlier, he tried to lighten the mood by asking about the pill. What exactly is it? In this state, it can also be seen that even now his hand still can't return to normal. It seems as if he still has the potential to become a devil, just like what happened to Tang Min before. Although under such circumstances Gu Xiaoyang managed to hide it, so in the end he won this match, he received congratulations from various people present at the venue. After that, Xia told Gu Xiaoyang that at this time Tang Min would be brought by him and his teacher, namely Elder Lin, who as master of alchemy would try to cure Tang Min first. Meanwhile, Xiaoyang's victory will be implemented as soon as possible. Here Xia also realizes that the negative energy in Xiaoyang's body has disappeared instantly. It wasn't long before Xiaoyang was telling himself that if all of the events just now were related to Hua Shirong, she was truly evil and ruthless. She should have found a way to eliminate this hidden danger. She also felt that her body was starting to feel strange ever since she absorbed the demonic bubble. His demon nature is now rampant. Even so, Gu Xiaoyang will continue to find ways to refine his energy slowly, so that he can expand the demonic energy earlier. and in the end he can get something positive. He also had to be careful to absorb something in the later period. A while later, again and again the teacher was currently praising the power of Xiaoyang. He said that this child had excellent natural talent, and it was amazing to be able to jump to number 1 in the outer sect in such a short time. For the success of Gu Xiaoyang, the teacher then ordered Gu Xiaoyang to choose his path of practice, which became a symbol of Xiaoyang's gift. Xiaoyang also felt very grateful for this situation. Teacher also continued to add, if considering the initial formation of his sword intent, he plans to recommend Gu Xiaoyang to Elder Lei. Elder Lei himself was Qingyun sect's sword Dao master, who was very suitable to help him reach Xiaoyang's cultivation. Here Xiaoyang also refused because in truth he wanted to learn alchemy techniques, and also wanted to study alchemy consistently. It could be said that at this time Xiaoyang had none other than chosen Elder Lin because he thought that Elder Lin was quicker to teach him. Gu Xiaoyang then said that now his comprehension could be increased by absorbing the attributes and martial arts he could do without a teacher to teach him. Conversely, he needed to study alchemy to truly improve his attributes, so he hoped to become great through the lessons learned from Elder Lin. He also said the higher the cultivation level, the less vitality attribute would come out, but pills and jades should be objects major in his later absorption. He was according to a well-thought-out plan. Gu Xiaoyang then said that now his comprehension could be increased by absorbing the attributes and martial arts he could do without a teacher to teach him. Conversely, he needed to study alchemy to truly improve his attributes, so he hoped to become great through the lessons learned from Elder Lin. He also said the higher the cultivation level, the less vitality attribute would come out, but pills and jades should be objects major in his later absorption. He was according to a well-thought-out plan. Gu Xiaoyang then said that now his comprehension could be increased by absorbing the attributes and martial arts he could do without a teacher to teach him. Conversely, he needed to study alchemy to truly improve his attributes, so he hoped to become great through the lessons learned from Elder Lin. He also said the higher the cultivation level, the less vitality attribute would come out, but pills and jades should be objects major in his later absorption. He was according to a well-thought-out plan. At a time like this, Xia also thought that Xiaoyang was joking because it was very far from his talent. Xia realized that currently, Gu Xiaoyang had sword intent talent, even when he was practicing at the 6th level of the Qi realm. So he hoped that Gu Xiaoyang would learn about cultivation. But again and again, Gu Xiaoyang was forced to refuse it, because he was more interested in learning alchemy, and he wanted to get guidance from Elder Lin. One could say he wanted to learn alchemy from scratch. This kind of situation left the teacher with no other choice, and it was forced that he would be the one to give important lessons to Xiaoyang. With results and circumstances like this, it means that there are already 2 geniuses held by the master. One is Xia, and the other is Gu Xiaoyang. Before entering a training, the teacher also suggested to Xiaoyang to arrange his current residence, and later Xiaoyang would be directed by someone. In short, when Xiaoyang was about to leave, Xia then wanted to ask Xiaoyang one thing, namely about the bet that they fully carried out. Xia then said, "What would you take for the gift of his request? I've been waiting for you to come to me a while ago." Under these circumstances, it turned out that Xiaoyang instead chose to be taught alchemy techniques. He didn't know about the matter. One could say that right now Xiaoyang just wanted to tell Xia to choose a sword technique suitable for his cultivation, because right now he was completely unaware of the sword intent he had. Soon, Gu Xiaoyang managed to meet a director named Xiao. Xiao then immediately gave Xiaoyang's identity badge, as well as he would accompany her to a new Xiaoyang residence. The 2 of them hurriedly went there, and unexpectedly when they got there, it turned out that the residence Gu Xiaoyang was going to live in was a small house, which was more suitable to be a stable. Gu Xiaoyang didn't expect this kind of situation because how could he get such a gift, even though this gift was far worse than his previous residence? Under these circumstances, Gu Xiaoyang did not expect this a mistake. Thus, Gu Xiaoyang also wanted to occupy a house that looked beautiful in front of him. But in this condition, it also turns out that Xiao then said that there are unwritten rules where the strongest can determine a person's place of residence. Xiao also said that at this time Xiaoyang had dared to offend Shurong, and that was what caused the situation to turn out like this. Finally, Xiaoyang realized that all the current problems were orders from Shurong. Xiao says that no one dares to beat Shurong because Shurong is ranked 28 in the inner sect. so Xiaoyang will never be able to beat her. Hearing those words from Xiao made Xiaoyang only able to release his threatening technique, which looked as if he was going to finish off the figure from Shirong. Under these circumstances, Gu Xiaoyang immediately made it clear to Xiao that now that he had made up his mind, he would take Shirong's place, even if he had to face her. At the same time, Shirong was currently relaxing at her residence. She also wanted to see the reaction of Xiaoyang, who got such a lousy residence. Xiaoyang was also very angry. He ordered Shirong to get out quickly, otherwise he would destroy this place. It didn't take long, with this shout coming from Xiaoyang, that Shirong immediately came out with his men and emphasized, "What exactly are you doing here, and why did you dare to come and cause trouble in this place?" Hearing this, Gu Xiaoyang immediately said that if he is very interested in taking possession of Shirong's residence, he will not hesitate to challenge Shirong in this place. The challenge was also accepted by Shirong, so a big battle between Gu Xiaoyang and Shirong was about to take place. There, Shirong said that soon he would show how to write dead words. Xiaoyang also said so. He said that this time he would not hesitate to attack Shirong again, and would finish Shirong with one single slash. Shirong was even more irritated by this situation. She said that she would soon finish off Xiaoyang, and she immediately took out a high-class technique called Drunken Spring Breeze. This technique he had studied for years, and he would demonstrate his abilities as a warrior. When Shirong issued that technique, Xiaoyang would also show the real sword intent, namely the lone kill sword technique, which went straight to Shirong's face, so that a war ensued between the two swords. The two swords continued to clash, and until eventually, this made Shirong have to fight. To accept his defeat, he was also hit by a right slash in the body, but fortunately, he was still safe. Shirong was currently completely defeated and left her unable to do much anymore. Shirong has lost face because she was defeated by Xiaoyang 2 times, and now she is forced to leave the house where she lives to go to a new residence, because according to the agreement, Xiaoyang is the one who occupies the house. Here, Xiaoyang also didn't finish off Shirong because they were still in the sect. If Shirong dared to mess around, Gu Xiaoyang would not hesitate to finish him off. Xiao, as a servant, will immediately prepare everything for Gu Xiaoyang, saying that he has more hopes for Xiaoyang. After that, Xiaoyang went straight to teacher Lin to learn alchemy. He really couldn't wait to do the learning. But before that, teacher Lin looked a little worried about Xiaoyang's condition, because he felt that Xiaoyang had talent in understanding sword techniques, not in alchemy. But even so, it was because Xiaoyang had chosen so he would teach her a lesson. Before that, he showed something that came from a stone. Teacher Lin then immediately explained about this stone, where he had brought this stone before, because there was a unique war mark. In terms of art, he brought it home to collect various energy techniques. Here, Gu Xiaoyang felt that there was an energy within the stone, and he also felt that there was a strong energy within the stone. He felt calm from meditation, and tried to control the sword that suddenly flew across him completely. The sword contained in the stone was very strong, so he had to be patient until he got it. After succeeding in getting it, he now automatically masters the sword technique. In this state, Xiaoyang is very happy, while the teacher does not know about Xiaoyang's current state. But what is clear is that the damage is now being caused by Xiaoyang. As a result of the incident earlier, the teacher felt that Xiaoyang was a true genius. He had even more than 3 years to pay attention to this stone, but he had never felt such an extraordinary aura. Teacher Lin was proud of this situation, wanted to study alchemy because learning alchemy was his lifelong wish. Teacher Lin then said, "Well, since you are determined to do this, if I refuse to accept you, then I will fail as a teacher. It's just that alchemy is difficult, and if you want to learn alchemy, there are 9 basics, and each base techniques are different. What's more, polls can only be requested, but whether they can be refined is another matter." The teacher also explained that the alchemist who can reach rank 5 is only Master Wei. He then showed me a furnace, which was his Qianyuan furnace, a grade 4 pill furnace that was inferior to the royal family, with this furnace being able to increase the success rate of pills to 10%. Their teacher also passed various alchemy notes to Xiaoyang, and there were also low-grade pill recipes stored away. In the book, the teacher then said that here he wanted to test Xiaoyang by burning it by making level 1 pills. According to this note, if this Xiaoyang was very proficient in alchemy, then he could continue. But if his talent was mediocre, the teacher suggested practicing with teacher Lei because Xiaoyang's powerful sword intent has already been felt. It didn't take long before the materials began to be prepared. The materials for making Peiyuan pills could start with that note, and Xiaoyang could ask a few questions when he was about to start manufacturing. Here teacher Lin immediately gave a lesson to Xiaoyang. He said an alchemist must be calm and focused and not rush. The most important thing to understand was the heat control of the fire, which would increase alchemy's success, and every type of fire needed for each pill was the best solution found after the last effort. Although currently Xiaoyang has extraordinary talent in cultivation, this is very inappropriate. When combined with alchemy, because alchemy requires countless failures, trying and then failing again for a novice like Xiaoyang was like something even geniuses could feel as frustrated as ever. Even so, Gu Xiaoyang continued to focus on pill manufacturing there. Before concocting the pill, Gu Xiaoyang asked the teacher, how would he see if it was finished because he didn't know much about pills before. By looking at it, Gu Xiaoyang also realized that this was the real alchemy breath. To understand the changes in the various materials in the furnace, in other words, he had to be able to control the absorption of medicinal power and the cleansing of poison once the pill was made. The pill prescription ratio was the initial control of the ingredients, but they thought burning was the most important, even though after various attempts was the most right to find the best way to integrate the ingredients. But if you could feel the breath of the materials in my furnace, the pill would be completely different. With one's ability to absorb attributes, this surely wouldn't be difficult for the unlucky Xiaoyang who started doing pill manufacturing here. Since he could at least see the properties of ingredients, he had a basic sense of aura from something he would normally find. He seemed to be able to catch any kind of attribute bubble based on his breath, and then judge the approximate number based on the strength of his breath. Like a seller in a market related to the weight of the year, the goods in hand can be estimated by the weight of a reason. So if this is the case, Gu Xiaoyang only needed to pay attention to the changes in the aura of the pill inside to match the burning. Since it was his first time making pills, he only looked at the attributes of the pills, and it was easier to just refine them. While carrying out various processes, he has now succeeded in refining the pill. In this state, 10 pills were completed, and the pill color was 80%. Gu Xiaoyang was confused as to why the color could be 80%, even though this color was the same as the teacher's earlier. It turned out that the previous teacher had indeed made the color 80% only because he was rarely able to completely complete low-level pills. Under these circumstances, the teacher also thought that Xiaoyang was able to perfect this, and his refinement became very low. Under these circumstances, Teacher Lin realized that this Gu Xiaoyang was very talented in alchemy, even more talented than him. Where in the first year the master studied, he tried to make pills 7 times, and he could only make pills 30% of the color. At that time he was praised as someone talented, but this child is very much different, and much tougher and more powerful than him. The teacher realized and wondered, is this kid a monster? How could someone who had never seen pills be able to refine a high-quality pill in just one try? Here he still couldn't accept it. He tried to make the color of the pill 100%. He thought there was still some poison that had not been cleaned, so he could produce a very low color and become 100% level. If he were to be able to open the cover and see this attribute bubble, he would be able to perfectly refine the pill. Here Xiaoyang did not give up. He also decided to try again to refine this thing. Master again gave him time to fix it again, and he will see for the various effects it brings out. Not long after, when they were focused on studying, suddenly Teacher Lei started shouting Teacher Lin's name. It turned out that Teacher Lin was called by Teacher Lei. Lin immediately came out of there and immediately shouted at the teacher during the day like this. Here Teacher Lei also set a condition that he did not accept, because the figure of Xiaoyang did not sit under him and learn sword techniques from him. But Gu Xiaoyang instead studied alchemy. Teacher Lei thought that Teacher Lin had forced it, but Teacher Lin said that before he had told Gu Xiaoyang to practice sword intent, but with all his heart, he chose instead to study alchemy. He was quite irritated by such a state of affairs because he had previously also noticed that this Teacher Lin was in a sect when the exams were taking place. He tried to explain to Teacher Lei that this was Gu Xiaoyang's decision. Even Gu Xiaoyang was already talented in his first try of becoming a chemist, where he had the chance to become a grade 9 alchemist. This kind of situation made Teacher Lei still in disbelief. And he will find out for himself from his mouth. This made Teacher Lin immediately say, "Well, you can ask Gu Xiaoyang himself if he is willing to learn sword from you or learn alchemy from me." This kind of situation made even Teacher Lei still couldn't believe it, and he would find out for himself from his mouth. This made Teacher Lin immediately say, "Well, you can ask Gu Xiaoyang himself if he is willing to learn sword from you or learn alchemy from me." This kind of situation made even Teacher Lei still couldn't believe it, and he would find out for himself from his mouth. This made Teacher Lin immediately say, "Well, you can ask Gu Xiaoyang himself if he is willing to learn sword from you or learn alchemy from me." They immediately headed towards Xiaoyang. But when they were inside, it turned out that Gu Xiaoyang had already left the place. There was also a letter written saying if he had done something. The letter contained, "Peiyuan Pillmaster had been perfected, and disciple has a new understanding of alchemy. Before I have an explanation of 30% of sword intent, I need to urgently find a place to practice. Please tell me, Elder Lei, that this disciple chooses to study alchemy only. Sorry to say that I have my immortal path to follow, and don't have time to learn the sword." One could say that in this state it meant that Gu Xiaoyang had already left for training, and the Peiyuan pill that was in front of him was perfect as Xiaoyang had refined it before. Under these circumstances, even Teacher Lei was speechless. He said, "Let him also plan to recommend him to participate in the four-sex contest." A few moments later, he is shown again with Xiaoyang's figure, where at this time he will immediately go to a place to train even harder. He wants to practice his various arts to be able to go to Killian Mountain again and absorb more attributes so he can reach a higher cultivation stage there. While on the way, he also felt that the sword intent he had absorbed from the stone earlier was very different from Jia's, so this sword could actually adjust the range according to what he wanted, and this sword could also allow him to break through the practice to the Juyuan realm. Xiaoyang had now begun to do so. He had now officially entered the path to immortality. Not far from there, they are shown a group of women from the Cold Moon Valley sect. They are currently looking for a valuable object from deep inside Goa to improve their skills so they can focus on facing the competition of the four main sects later. They also now arrived in front of the cave and tried to go inside because they were sure that there was something good there. At that place, a person named Jishuan told Zhao to be careful, because in this cave there was a movement of monsters from inside. But Ji said that don't worry, because if anyone is in danger they will form formation quickly. When he entered there, he instead met a figure who was picking up precious relics left behind by the Cold Moon Valley sect's ancestors. With that, an uproar started between Gu Xiaoyang and also the troops from Cold Moon Valley. There, Ji told Gu Xiaoyang to immediately put the heirloom back because they thought it was an inheritance from their ancestors or seniors from Cold Moon Valley. Here, Xiaoyang had to lie so he could get the heirloom. Under these circumstances, Xiaoyang also realized one thing. They were all troops from Cold Moon Valley, and were all at the Juyuan realm level. But even so, Gu Xiaoyang was still capable of dealing with all of those troops in that cave. Xiaoyang also knew that this thing did not belong to this Cold Moon Valley, and before that, it only belonged to the monsters that inhabited this cave. "This cave was discovered by me," said Xiaoyang. "So can you guys show any evidence that this heirloom belongs to the Valley of the Cold Moon?" Zhao also heard that, and pointed out that the sword that was there was a sword that belonged to the Cold Moon Valley. But a moment later, Gu Xiaoyang directly smashed the fragile sword and said that there weren't any swords around there. Zhao was very angry with this situation, and the female troops began to prepare to attack. Zhao and the rest of the army were very upset that they had been belittled by Xiaoyang. They also planned to attack, but at that time Ji tried to do it gently by talking to Xiaoyang. However, Zhao ignored it and directly attacked Xiaoyang. But again, Xiaoyang managed to avoid it, and was even able to take the sword that was owned by Zhao. Under these conditions, the battle was now heating up, and unexpectedly Xiaoyang managed to deliver a surprise attack that left Zhao completely speechless. In this condition, Ji also realized that Xiaoyang had quite a strong potential. Not long after, suddenly came a group of men led by Zhuo Changfeng, who had come here to meet Ji's figure because he missed him. One could say that this Changfeng idolized and wanted to marry Jishuan, but Ji until now still refused him. He also did this because earlier he saw Ji enter the cave, so he followed him from behind. At this moment, Xiaoyang also realized that the troop was not from the Valley of the Cold Moon. Now Changfeng was even more intimidating to Ji. Moreover, he wanted Ji to be completely his. Ji continued to refuse because he didn't want to marry someone like Kang Feng. Kang Feng, who was annoyed at the refusal, then ordered his soldiers to immediately lock up these women so they could play and have fun together. But when they were about to do that, Xiaoyang shouted and said if no one could tie this woman up because she was the first to come, then she should be served first. Xiaoyang kept warning the gang of men to leave this place immediately, or else they would soon meet the consequences they so badly wanted. Even though he was threatened like that, Changfeng was not afraid in the slightest. He said, how can a brat who is still at the early stage of the Zhuyuan realm dare to talk so much in front of this Master Zhuo? Under these conditions, the women also did not realize and did not understand Xiaoyang's behavior because they dared to challenge Changfeng. With the courage possessed by Xiaoyang, Zhao was quite fascinated. Under such circumstances, Changfeng now would immediately tell Gu Xiaoyang one thing, where if Gu Xiaoyang did not leave here soon, then his life would soon be over. Not long after the fight started between them, Changfeng ordered his subordinates to finish off Xiaoyang immediately, while he would take care of the women. The underlings were now directly attacking Xiaoyang, whereas Changfeng was directly attacking the women. He committed an utterly immoral act towards the women, because he liked Ji Xuan. Under such circumstances, Ji did not expect this situation to occur. Moreover, Changfeng is a disciple of the Heavenly Wind Valley. He never even thought that Changfeng would do something like this, even though he had rejected Changfeng's proposal before. Ji was getting annoyed by the situation, and he didn't want to hold back anymore from continuing to attack. Encountering this kind of situation, it was clear that Changfeng would never waste it. He immediately drew closer to Ji's figure and was about to carry out an action he wanted. But still, Ji refused because he didn't want to follow someone like Changfeng. Changfeng then looked at his men who were currently being massacred by Xiaoyang. Under these conditions, Gu Xiaoyang said that if he had finished off all of his men very easily, Gu Xiaoyang had also succeeded in saving these women, so the women were now grateful to him. Being alone like this made Changfeng truly fearful of Xiaoyang's ruthlessness. He asked who this Xiaoyang figure was. Here Xiaoyang knows that if this Changfeng figure is from Heavenly Wind Valley, then he will testify to arrest and reveal the crimes committed by Changfeng. But Changfeng said that there wasn't anyone who could do that because everyone here had to die right away. Under these circumstances, Gu Xiaoyang also saw a strange attribute that this Changfeng possessed. Changfeng started to perform a shadow attack right at Xiaoyang, so Xiaoyang tried to counter it. With the shadow attack, suddenly Xiaoyang was trapped in this domain owned by Changfeng. There the shadow seemed to keep looking at him and could kill Xiaoyang at any time. Xiaoyang was even more confused by this state of affairs. He had to focus on dodging every attack Changfeng gave him. Changfeng started to attack from behind, but the attack was broken by Xiaoyang. When the attack was broken, again and again, it turned out to be just a shadow. So this time this domain became even more truly difficult. Xiaoyang was currently trying to sense the existence of Changfeng. Under these conditions, Gu Xiaoyang also realized one thing. At this time, Changfeng had put in a lot of energy, and it could drain his strength much faster. Xiaoyang tried to keep on defending and dodging every available attack. He managed to finish off one by one the shadows that tried to get closer. Outside that domain, Ji started to worry because this changing figure was much stronger. This technique could be said to be a secret method technique that seemed to come from a figure of darkness. Ji started to enter that domain. He felt a thick fog that should not be in a place like this. He couldn't hear any sound because it seemed like this mist was a high-level barrier technique. When in this state unexpectedly, Ji was trapped in the domain so soon Ji saw for himself that at this time Xiaoyang was being beaten hard by Changfeng. Gu Xiaoyang and Ji tried to take cover behind this, and there Changfeng kept warning the two of them that they would perish in a place like this. Even Changfeng no longer had any mercy towards Ji because Ji had done the refusal. He would give this Ji figure a surprise with a hideous death. Now that Ji and Gu Xiaoyang were trapped in that place, and things were getting tense, the two of them had to stay focused because Chang Feng could attack from various directions. Here Gu Xiaoyang told Ji to find the whereabouts of the real Chang Feng so they could defeat Chang Feng. Attacks began to be carried out by Chang Feng, but again the attack was a shadow attack and made them even more confused by this situation. Ji was also currently experiencing pain, so in this state he was only able to use his two strength techniques. Then a surprise attack was carried out by Chang Feng, but under these circumstances, Gu Xiaoyang was forced to immediately issue a new sword intent technique that he got from the stone just now that he immediately used. This technique was extremely formidable and powerful, and even the shadow just now shattered. In this state, Gu Xiaoyang could see the faces of Chang Feng's fake, so he could then directly attack Chang Feng's real body. This technique was truly powerful, and under these circumstances, Chang Feng was even more pressured, until in the end, Xiaoyang's powerful attack managed to knock Chang Feng backward. With this condition, Ji realized that this sword's intent was very strong. After that, Gu Xiaoyang immediately approached Chang Feng. He would not let this Chang Feng get away with it. There, he also managed to take the attributes owned by Chang Feng. With this attribute, at least, he would be able to increase his ability again, even though he did not know exactly what attribute he was absorbing. Under these circumstances, the women present also felt grateful to Xiaoyang, because otherwise they would have been slaughtered by the army from the Wind Valley. When the women thanked them, it turned out that this Xiaoyang had one request for the women,